A couple days ago, Nintendo shocked the world with an announcement, and this time it wasn't them shitting on their fans and shutting down an innocent Smash Brothers tournament. This time around, it was an update on a pretty ambitious project, a Mario animated movie. Historically, video game movies have been some stinky hemorrhoids, but Nintendo did something special. They got a lot of people hype as fuck for this one because they announced the most wacky and crazy cast of voice actors for this movie imaginable. I felt like I was watching one of those fan YouTube videos where they just pick random A-list actors and say they're the ideal fit for fucking Dr. Mario or something. They really went in raw and no rubber with this cast. They did not spare any expense. By the end of it, I thought they were going to announce that they revived Marilyn Monroe to play Daisy in the film. Like, they were just pulling in everyone imaginable. Fucking Brad Pitt, Leo DiCaprio, like, it was getting wild and wacky. I'll go ahead and play the clip for you, but I want to start by answering the question on everyone's mind that I've been getting asked millions of times since this announcement. Where am I? Why is Charles White not in the movie? Or does Charles White perhaps have a cameo in the film they didn't want to reveal quite yet? They didn't want to show their full hand. I'll just go ahead and rip the band-aid off. I'll hit you with the cold water. Spoiler alert. I'm not in the movie. I'm as shocked as you are and as disappointed. I think what happened here is Nintendo didn't know how to get in touch with me in order to, really cement me in the film, which is a bit of a shame. They could have just reached out on Twitter or something if they know what that is. Judging by their Nintendo Online service, they probably don't know what Twitter or the internet is in general, but I'm sure they could have sent like a letter or something to someone that could have gotten in touch with me. I really feel like it's a huge missed opportunity that I don't have one of the leading roles here. Now, don't get me wrong, of course I feel like the cast is going to do a great job, but they don't have the same talent that I do when it comes to acting. I truly assimilate into the role and become the character. When you hear Chris Pratt voicing Mario, you're going to hear Chris Pratt pretending to be Mario. When you hear me voicing Mario, you think that's just what Mario actually sounds like. It's what I did with Officer Greg and in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. You don't even know it's me. You really believe that character exists because that's what I'm able to do. I'm like a fucking reptilian and I'm wearing their skin suit. Like, I really fucking get right in their butthole and I become that character. I work them like a puppet. It's just upsetting to me that they didn't even ask. Like, maybe they thought I would have been too expensive, but surely I could have dropped my rate because I would have loved to have a role in this film. I just really think I would have been a good fit here, and I think in particular, I would have made a really good Bowser. Like, just watch this. Hey, Mario, get away from Peach. She's with me now, you cuck. See? And that's only like a small sliver. That's unpracticed. That's coming in here fresh, no warm-up at all. A small taste of my ability. And yes, I'm sure Jack Black will do fine, but he probably won't even reach like a sliver of that showcase I just showed you. Like, it's just a missed opportunity, and I just want to go ahead and get ahead of this and explain to you, like, it wasn't my decision. I didn't turn down any of the roles this time. I'm very particular with the roles I take with acting, but I would have been open to this. So it's just Nintendo fucking up per usual. Here's the Nintendo Direct, though, so you can at least see who's voicing who and get caught up to speed.
Who will be voicing Mario and his friends in the movie. First, of course, is Mario, who will be played by Chris Pratt. He's so cool. Next, Princess Peach will be played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Mario's little brother, Luigi, will be played by Charlie Day. Bowser will be played by the one and only Jack Black. I'm expecting a monster performance by Jack's son. The comedian Keegan-Michael Key will be playing Toad. Even though this is a Mario movie, Donkey Kong will also be making an appearance. He will be played by Seth Rogen. And of course, Charles Martinet. We also have more incredible talent joining the film to play some of our other beloved characters.
Now, of course, I agree. Chris Pratt, he is so cool. But overall, I have to say, it's not just Chris Pratt here. That is the biggest attention grabber, but really this whole cast is wild. Like, god damn, for a second I thought they were about to announce, like, my dad is playing a role in here. Like, everyone was coming in. This is like the fucking Avengers level cast here for their Mario animated voice actors. Now, Chris Pratt is a really good voice actor. I think he's super fucking good, especially in the Lego movies. So I think he's going to crush it, but I can't really see him doing like the iconic yahoos, woohoo, like any of that. I can't see it coming from him. Now, see, I could do it if they need me to, but they're probably not looking for an impression, right? See, that's one of the big misconceptions when it comes to voice acting, that they're looking for people to do impressions. That's a bunch of dog shit. That's not real. They want unique spins and passion, which I'm able to easily weave into all of my work. But again, I don't want to get too hung up on the could-be's of me being in the movie. I want to focus on what they were able to do here. They were able to take the Mario animated film, which I think most people were lukewarm about. I don't think anyone expects it to be great. And they're able to get people talking and excited for it just because of this crazy cast attached to it. Really smart from Nintendo. I also would like to say their first foray into movies with the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 1993 is a fucking masterpiece. No matter how good this Mario animated film is, it will be terrible in comparison to the 1993 magnum opus. That movie, I don't care what you say, is good. I watched the shit out of it when I was a kid. It has nothing to do with Mario at all. Like, not even close, but it's this wacky and goofy and gross sci-fi movie. Like, it's a movie that feels like a fever dream, but actually existed. And apparently, the lore behind this film is a nightmare. There were people like dying of heat stroke on set. Everyone was miserable and sweating and abused. They weren't told anything. Like, the whole story surrounding Super Mario Bros. 1993 is crazy. I implore you to look into the history of that movie. Because what ended up happening through all of that suffering and sacrifice came one of the most unique movies of the 90s. It is this incredibly awful in the right way kind of movie. Everything that could go wrong with a film went wrong for this movie, and I loved it. Obviously, I haven't seen it in the better part of 15 or 20 years now, and I don't plan on ever watching it again because it lives on in a glorious spot in my memory. I remember it being really fun and enjoyable, and even though it had nothing to do with Mario, it still had this unique identity and charm about it, and that's the way it'll stay. I know if I watch it today, I'll have a different opinion, but god damn it, I recognized it was bad back then and still loved it in spite of all that. So, just want to make that clear. I'm sure this Mario animated film will be competent. I don't think Nintendo's going to make the same mistake they made back in the 90s. I think this one's probably going to be done right and be done well. So I am pretty excited to see it, especially with this kind of cast. I just wanted to talk about this because I've been getting asked about it so much if I've seen it. And yeah, I've seen it and I've been crying about it because I'm not in it. But other than that, I am excited. And that's about it. So yeah. With every new piece of information that comes out about the Halo TV show, it sounds more and more like a hot load of shit. It seems like if you are a fan of the Halo games, then you're not the target audience for the show. But don't worry, if you just like good sci-fi or appreciate a good story, you'll still be disappointed by the show, because according to reviews, it's just a discount Mandalorian. So you just get Diet Star Wars with Halo slapped on it for marketing. This is looking like a giant $90 million hemorrhoid on Paramount's paycheck here. It's been very difficult to get excited for this project for even a single second, because with every interview they've given about it, they've made it sound worse and worse. In their most recent blunder, they just openly, unashamedly state that they didn't play the games and never talked about the games when making the show, as if that's something to be proud of. "We didn't look at the game," says Season 1 showrunner Steven. "We didn't talk about the game. We talked about the characters in the world. So I never felt limited by it being a game. I'll never understand this fucking trend of adapting a video game into a show and forsaking the game itself as if it's something to be spit upon. No, the show it's so highbrow, we couldn't even look at the game without feeling sick to our stomachs. Wait till you see our new generic sci-fi film that we slapped Halo on for marketing. It's super dumb. Now, apparently they did read the books, which is good, but the books are supplemental to the games. So I'm not very optimistic. I'm still gonna watch it. I think the visuals look amazing. And what was it, like 10 million an episode? I mean, they better look amazing. It was something like $10 million per episode they've committed to it. Like, Jesus Christ. At that price, they better have a brute giving them a fucking lap dance at the office. So the visuals are absolutely going to be nuts, I'm sure, but it's hard to be optimistic when they actively just shit on the game, which is like what most people know Halo for is the games. Look at Arcane. Look at what Arcane did. They made a show that targeted League of Legends fans, but also just happened to be so good at doing that it was able to transcend that and be a good show for everyone to like. They didn't say like, hey, we took League of Legends characters that you all loved and then said, League is for fucking toxic nerd virgins. So fuck that. We're going completely off book. We're going rogue. I'm not optimistic, but I would love to be proven wrong. Probably gonna bomb. I mean, everyone's already writing this off. They need to stop giving interviews. Every time they say something about this show, they make it worse and worse. Like, who the fuck thought this was a good idea to say, we didn't look at the game? We didn't talk about the game. Like, how is anyone supposed to get hype? Who's gonna be like, yeah, they didn't play the game! Yeah, now I'm ready. Okay, I was worried before, but now I have full confidence. The richness and depth of the universe was immediately mind-boggling and incredibly exciting because what it means as a storyteller is that there's already been a huge amount of preparation and groundwork. And half of it you're missing by not looking at the game or talking about it. You're getting a piece of the universe. Their fucking heads would explode out their ass if they did the games too, I guess. This has been a masterclass on how to completely kill any and all hype that could have been generated for your TV show before it ever even airs. They've just been like full-blown goat-seeing themselves with every interview and getting laughed at for it. I don't know what the thought process was. It is a video game franchise first and foremost. Before all of the books, before all of the other extended universe things, it was video games. So to completely ignore the games and just act like they're lesser ruins the excitement because obviously the main viewer base for a Halo TV show is going to be Halo fans. And those Halo fans enjoy the games. And if they're Wumbo fans, fucking absolutely gigantic Halo enthusiasts, then yeah, they've read the books too. But they have also played the games. You know, it's not the most complicated math formula in the world. It's the whole reason they're making a Halo show, because it comes with a built-in audience. Otherwise, they could have just made an IP, a brand new sci-fi show. Why even bother taking the Halo name? But it makes no sense to have your clowns come forward at every turn and slap them in the face by just gloating about how little you care about the games and how proud you are that you didn't play or look at the games. Just like fucking nutting in your pants about it like, oh yeah, we didn't play the games. You know, it just doesn't do anything to get people excited about your show. It's not like by forsaking the games, you're going to capture a new audience outside of it. There won't be some octogenarian perusing AOL who sees your interview about how the Halo TV show has nothing to do with the games, and all of a sudden he's going to have like a spark of interest in it, like, oh wow, well now you've got my attention. I hate video games, it's the devil's work, so if this has nothing to do with those goddamn things, then count me in. All it did was just alienate the fan base. It made them not excited, when they could have easily just said like, hey, we know you guys like the games, we love the games too, but we decided to focus on a different kind of story, like more like in the books or something. That would have been totally fine. I understand not trying to like adapt the Halo games one-to-one for a TV show, you're setting yourself up for failure. But you should at least have the decency to know what the games are about. You don't even have to play it yourself, just watch like a fucking Let's Play or something. Watch like the cutscene movie. Or, I mean, if you really wanted to, like, understand the whole universe, why not at least try playing them? If Kotaku can beat the games, I'm sure someone on your staff could have beat these too, and then had a deeper understanding of how the Halo universe works. But there's just a difference between focusing on, like, the books or things outside of the games and actively disrespecting the games themselves. Because every time they talk about the games, it seems like they genuinely hate the medium. Now, luckily, there is a silver lining here. This is a confirmed non-canon show, at least from everything I've read. So perhaps they'll go really wild and wacky with it. We'll have Ronald McDonald as a Spartan 2. Shrek emerges as a primary antagonist when they visit the swamps of Dagobah. Maybe the grunts are all voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. Yeah, they could get crazy with it. This shit could be looking like the Ultimate Showdown from 2006. Steven, you said you didn't want it to feel limited by being a game. Well then don't be limited by anything, baby. Go hog wild. Don't even let copyright law stop you. I want to see Naruto Uzumaki enter the equation here. If he doesn't make a surprise appearance in like episode 5, then I'm going to say you utterly failed as a showrunner. Also, I have a bold prediction real quick. I genuinely think they're going to go completely Insano style and introduce superpowers. I'm just putting it out there right now. I'm probably wrong, but I just have a very strong hunch that they introduce some kind of supernatural element to the Halo universe where one of the like characters they were showing on the side in the trailer has some type of supernatural ability, like telekinesis or like maybe force sensitivity or some shit. I'm not sure exactly what, but I just have this like tiny itch on my nutsack that tells me they just might go for it. So I'm just putting it out there now, so if it does come to fruition, I look like a genius. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this because this is probably some of the worst marketing I've seen for a major budget TV show ever. They have actively shot themselves in the foot every time they've opened their mouths, and now the show's already just kind of a joke before it's even started. So yeah, there's about 4 days until the first episode drops, and I promise you, I will be plopped onto my throne of swamp ass right here watching it. And who knows, maybe it'll just absolutely slap. It'll be a massive success, though I am doubtful. It seems like they didn't even really know who their audience was, considering at every turn they did their best to make nobody excited for it. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. I want to apologize, and I hope you'll forgive me, but I have to go stinky diaper baby mode here and just whine and cry about something real quick. The Halo TV show is a grim reminder of what happens when they try and adapt the show with absolutely no care at all for the property they're trying to adapt. Adapting video games into live action has historically always ended in catastrophic failure, and the fan base is melting down and considering it like an apocalypse and an affront to God, like I can't sleep anymore because of how bad the Assassin's Creed movie was, shit like that. But it's not without merit. It really is completely insulting to take something and then not try at all with it and turn it into something unrecognizable from the initial property. That's what's happening with Halo. I feel like we got the fanfic porn parody version of this show. There has been more shots of just bare ass cheeks in the first 8 episodes of Halo than there were in the entirety of Game of Thrones. And it's more than just that. I just feel like video game adaptations, while always being destined for failure, are just really in this place where they're taking the property and not even trying to adapt it. They're just using the name for marketing and then actively spitting on the community that comes with that name. Netflix just released the first trailer for their Resident Evil show, and it hasn't come out or anything yet, so I have no strong opinions on it. And the trailer doesn't look like a terrible show or anything, but it doesn't look like Resident Evil. It looks like just another generic zombie movie. It looks like they're trying to capitalize off the Walking Dead hype, but they're 10 years too late. They've basically just created what looks like the running, not living. It doesn't seem like it has any of the Resident Evil DNA, aside from like cameos from the Worm, which I think was in Code Veronica, and a couple of other zombies that were pretty prevalent in the games. But other than that, it doesn't seem like it's trying to really justify its own existence as a Resident Evil property. It just seems like it's using the name and then showing a generic zombie story. Again, it hasn't come out, so I don't know, but it still just leads me to believe that it's going to be something like Halo, where it takes the name and then has nothing to do with anything in that universe. And I just don't understand why. The shows are made by people that don't like the property. The Halo team is very open about them not playing the games and having no desire to play the games. That's not good. Like, there's no reason that all adaptations should be shitty. And movies like Sonic the Hedgehog prove that. And even The Witcher, to a lesser extent, because I know a lot of people didn't like Season 2 that much, but it was still a competent show that paid respect to the source material. And these Sonic and Witcher prove that you can adapt a video game or anything really into another medium successfully, capturing a new audience that never heard of the franchise before, while also pleasing the fan base that comes with the name. I don't understand the point of taking something like Halo and absolutely mutilating it, just fucking dismembering it and making it unrecognizable from the Halo games that people love so much. But that's exactly what they've done. I just finished catching up with Halo. I was a few episodes behind. I watched them today, and it is laughably silly. Master Chief fucks, and I mean that literally. Master Chief has sex in the show, which is something I never thought I'd ever see or say. Closest thing Master Chief's ever had to sex, ever, is teabagging the Covenant after killing them in the games. But in this wacky and wild Halo universe that would make even Doctor Strange puke, he full-on mashes pissers with a human that's been working with the Covenant, which is another really silly plot point. But yeah, he gets his wiener wet in the show, and you've also seen his ass like 1,000 times by now. The master cheeks have been on full display for the whole show. There's really a lot of ass in this show, actually. But it's not just ass in the show is ass itself. It's just not good. There are good moments in it, though. Like, the few scenes of action that exist in this show are pretty cool and pretty interesting. I think they do a great job of showing how powerful and how game-changing Spartans are. And I also love the grunts and the jackals. I think they made them look really cool, even though they've only been in a single scene for the whole show. There are moments that I appreciate, and I also think they did a decent job with Halsey and Cortana in particular. And speaking of Cortana, she actually watches Master Chief have sex. It's like some kind of cuckoldry porn thing. But again, I'm getting sidetracked. There are a couple of decent moments in the show, but it's all just marred by everything else being unbelievably, bafflingly terrible. If this show did not have Halo slapped on top of it, you would have no idea. You would just think that there was character designs inspired by Halo, because it has nothing, and I do mean nothing, in common with the games of the books. Let me give you a quick look at what a scene with the Master Chief looks like. One second, I'm getting in cosplay gear. I'm sad. What did you do to my memories, Halsey? Halsey, I need to find the artifact for my memories. Halsey, I'm still mad. That is all this fucking guy does. It's like they actually lobotomized Master Chief, injected him with pure stupid juice. He spends the entirety of this fucking show in a stupor, desperate to unlock memories as a child. But, like, that would be an okay plot point if it was like season 5. But we have never seen Master Chief be Master Chief. From the very beginning of this show, he has been an emotional wreck. I tell ya, if you thought Master Chief in the games or books was cool, by golly, wait till you see him in this. He's fucking epic. If you think that a man sleepwalking for 8 episodes is cool. And now he's getting, like, injured from using the artifact so much to see memories that he's got a tummy ache, so he's always like, ooh, my tummy hurts. It's so fucking boring. The only time Master Chief even resembles Master Chief is when he's fighting, and that only happens twice. He only fights 2 times so far in the show, and there's 1 episode left. It's insulting, and I don't know what the fuck is going on. I wasn't exaggerating. He is always taking off and putting on his helmet. It's like he's trying to fuck his own head with his helmet. He is constantly putting it on and off. He'll put it on to walk 3 steps and then take it off again. Why? Why? What is the point? Just don't even why even put the fucking helmet on in the first place? Just walk there. There's only one interesting Spartan in this entire show, and it's not Master Chief. It's Soren. And Soren is nerfed because he has to babysit the most annoying character in television history, Kwan Ha. I want to make it clear, I think Kwan Ha's actress is actually really talented. I think she does a great job when it comes to acting, but her dialogue and her character itself are trash. All she does is exist in a perpetual temper tantrum and accomplishes nothing on her own, and just gets people around her killed. She's so bent on, bringing justice to Madrigal, freeing them, following in her father's footsteps, that all she does is just have this baby rage for, and I'm having baby rage right now, I've been thinking about it, of course, but all she does is have baby rage for 8 episodes, does nothing, gets people hurt around her, takes no responsibility, and still thinks she's tough. Constantly yelling and screaming like, I'll beat all of your asses, even though, so far, she hasn't won a single fight. In fact, she has only ever gotten her ass beaten and had to be saved by other people, and yet still has the gall to keep talking such a big game, despite being an actual plague to people around her. When she shows up, it's like this miasma of death that follows her. She tries to lead a rebellion against, I'm getting really deep into spoilers, but I'm doing you a favor. I wouldn't recommend watching the show. It's not even fun bad. She goes back to Madrigal, and she's trying to get the generals together to rise up and take it back. And she immediately gets her aunt killed just by talking to her in what is very clearly a lost cause that'll never happen. It's just constantly awful decisions. So far, she has been my least favorite part of the show. Every scene with her feels like in the new Star Wars movie when they go to the casino planet for 45 minutes and accomplish nothing that has any impact on the overall story. That's how I feel with every scene she's in until episode 7, the very end. The very end of episode 7, Kwan Ha finally does something. She blows up a giant tank which kills the main bad guys of Madrigal. Super helpful. She did it with the help of Soren. So far, that's the only thing of note that she's done, but she has still been an entirely frustrating character to watch in this show. Now, on stream a few weeks back, I was talking about the show only up till episode 4, because that's where it was at the time. And I just want to play some of those clips, because all of those complaints I still have right now. So let me get you up to speed, and then we'll talk even further about the Halo show after. Show chat the plasma pistol prop. Sure. Into this. They didn't actually paint it for the scene, so it's still just the foam prop. This is also the only fight scene in the entire show so far. We're 4 episodes deep, and they've only fought the Covenant once, in the very beginning of the first episode. The rest has just been Chief. I can't even. He's not Chief, it's just John. The rest has just been John walking around, moping, having memories. So fucking boring. I don't know why they keep showing so much ass cheek. That's the best part of the show. Just looking at a bunch of ass. It's just people are the actual bad guys, not the Covenant. They're just an afterthought. The show compared to other shows is great quality. Bro, the show compared to even to other shows is not good quality. This plasma pistol not being painted is just one of many glaring problems the first episode had, with the only fight scene, mind you, in the entire show. In fact, also one of the few times the Covenant has even been in the show. They also had the assault rifle, which they didn't even bother to even try to use a prop, which they already had. They badly CGI'd. Let me pull that clip up real quick in case you haven't seen it or you overlooked it. There's that. When it goes into first person, extend that assault rifle's shitty CGI to every single, shot in the first person. They didn't play the games, so they tried first person without playing the game, so it doesn't even look how it should, and it looks terrible because the CGI falls apart from that perspective. And then after this, he doesn't become Chief again. He's just John. He inexplicably decides to be daddy to a random girl that he saves from this planet because all of a sudden he's got a couple of memories back from his past. So he's immediately emotional, and then they spend the next 4 episodes of him getting even more emotional. And it's supposed to make you care, but it doesn't, because you've only ever seen him emotional. You've never seen him not be an emotional fucking wreck. So it's not earned. It's not powerful. He starts as an edgy, moody teenager, and he stays that way for all 4 episodes. It's bad. It's stupid. It's really fucking dumb. And also, it's really lazy. The girl that he saves has been in the same bloody clothes for the last 2 in-world weeks, or however long they've been traveling. They went to Soren's planet, and he was in this lush asteroid full of decadence, food, and everything. And she showered, she cleaned herself off, but then still put on bloody clothes because they only have one actual piece of wardrobe for her character. One costume, and it's covered in blood. It makes no sense. The show is lazy. Nothing they do has any weight or anything. The only thing they're doing is Master Chief is getting memories back slowly, and he wanders around in a fucking stupor. It's so stupid. And then one of the other Spartans just likes John, so then emulates John, and now she's going through her rebellious phase, where she takes out her emotional pellet and then dyes her hair red. It is genuinely fan fiction written by a child. It is nothing like Halo, which wouldn't bother me if it was just entertaining, but it's not, even compared to other shows. It's just not. And they show so much ass for no reason. That's the only good thing I can say about it. You get to see Master Cheeks. He's got his whole fucking butthole hanging out while he's taking out his emotional pellet. Then they show more cheeks when Kai takes out her pellet. Then they have a whole 2-minute scene of the villain's ass cheeks as he's monologuing with a cigar. Because the villains aren't the Covenant. The Covenant don't play any role in this at all. It's just about, people are evil. The UNSC is making these inexplicably comically evil decisions which don't really make much sense in world, but they're doing it anyway. But we get to see more ass. I really can't express enough how dumb the show is. And to put in perspective how lazy it is, the main scientist girl, Miranda, is interviewing the Spartans, and now Kai's going through a rebellious phase because she removed her emotional suppression pellet because she saw Chief do it. And as they're just talking, the girl Kai picks up the needler and says "Quacom" or whatever, which is the Covenant talk for needler. And then this triggers something in Miranda oh, that makes sense. They've been fighting the Covenant for years. They've probably heard them say these words before. Maybe it would be worthwhile to translate their language. I want to quickly clarify something here during the rant. I neglected to mention that Miranda was actively trying to crack the Covenant language, but she was doing it in a roundabout, inefficient way since she wasn't communicating with the Spartans, who directly fight the Covenant. Thus, they would have picked up some key words that would have helped her. So for some reason, over the last however many years they've been fighting, never once did someone think to translate their language using the Spartans that have been in the thick of it for that long. Like, they have everything recorded in their helmets. They've established their helmets record everything, and at no point they bothered to check that to see what the Covenant were saying. It blows my mind. So then they start connecting dots, like, oh, so what does this word mean? What is this word? And then they eventually start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and they reach Halo. What's that? When they could have done this for fucking years if they just bothered to look at their helmets. So this was only a bit of everything I hate about Halo. This was only scratching the surface. Now I'd like to dive even deeper. Another thing in the Halo TV show is it betrays one of the biggest twists in the Halo lore, which was the truth behind the rings. It does this in like the 3rd episode. Well, in the Halo TV show, Master Chief goes to the asteroid where Soren has his civilization, and Soren introduces him to a man who was on a Covenant ship where he was somehow able to learn all of the secrets of the Halo ring. Swear to God, this dude became the actual Wikipedia page for the Halo ring, just spitting out all of the facts right off rip. This man was like the goddamn engineer of the Halo ring, it sounds like. This guy knew every goddamn cheat code in there. So he reveals to Chief that the ring, Halo, the ring, is a destructive force and it's dangerous. This immediately gets rid of all of the mystery and mystique of Halo. The Halo rings in the game initially weren't known to be like a galaxy-ending threat or a massive danger. Initially, they knew very little about it, so when you do finally learn that it's a weapon, it's surprising and the stakes completely change. Meanwhile, in the Halo show, only 3 episodes in, as John walks around bare ass, nearly fucking hanging full hog, just flopping meat all the time, never in armor, John wanders up to this random guy on a random fucking asteroid who happens to just shit out the schematics to the Halo ring and give away all of the secrets. The dude who is crawling around on all 4 just happens to spit the most important information about Halo lore, which makes it extremely underwhelming because now there is no way of making the viewer surprised to learn this information because now John has it. John now knows that the ring is a problem. It's a threat. It's not a good thing. So it just takes a lot of the wind out of the sails there, and it makes it even harder for the show to recover from it. There's no reason this show had to be horrible, but they chose the worst possible team for it. A team that proudly proclaimed that they didn't play the games, and they weren't going to play the games to make the show. That's just a red flag. That's not a flex, that's embarrassing. This is a property that is loved by so many and was integral to like FPS games in the first place. It's such a powerful franchise. So to get a team behind it that clearly thinks very little of the games it comes from is just a recipe for disaster. I'm sure there are people that like this show, and I could see why some people would if they're just looking for something mindless to put on. But again, this ties into the point of the video. What is the point in taking beloved franchises and completely bastardizing them till they're unrecognizable from the source material? There's just nothing to be gained from it. You piss off the fan base, which you're clearly trying to tap into by borrowing the property's name and likeness, and you just create a lackluster product that most people probably won't like because the team that put it together didn't like it in the first place. So who wins here? It's just a lose-lose situation all around. The people that worked on the Halo show probably would have preferred to work on something they actually like, because they're clearly not like Halo fans, because they proudly say they don't play the games, nor do they have any intention of doing so. So why have them be the ones to work on this? Then you just alienate the fan base of the games that wanted a cool Halo show, and you deliver a lackluster show that people that don't like Halo also won't like the show. You know, it's just, there's nothing to be gained from it, and it still blows my mind that it's done this way. Again, they just revealed the Resident Evil trailer, and it's very clear there's very little taken from the actual Resident Evil property. It just looks like a generic zombie movie. The only thing they have in common right now is zombies, and they also have the worm from, I think it was like Code Veronica or something, I don't remember what. And that's about it. They just have like basically cameos based from what I see in the trailer. Again, it could come out and surprise everyone and be great, but I'm not very optimistic when it comes to it. This show almost just makes you root for the Covenant. The Covenant really seem like the good guys sometimes. The UNSC is just constantly fighting amongst themselves and making inexplicably evil decisions that don't even further their own goals. It's just evil for the sake of evilness. So the UNSC is just set up to be like the actual ultimate bad guy, while the Covenant are just a tiny little footnote somewhere along that story. And it's trash. So yeah, I just wanted to rant about this a little bit, and that's about it. So yeah. Well, the Halo show's finally over, which is great news, but unfortunately, like a zit during puberty, it will be back. Because they already booked Season 2 before this dumpster fire ever even aired, which is baffling. Their confidence in the show is misplaced, and the team behind it feels like they wanted to use as little as possible from the Halo universe, and they made that clear right away when they proudly stated that they didn't play the games and had no desire to ever play the games. And you can almost feel that in the show itself. Like, deep in the DNA of the show, it feels like it was made by people that hate Halo and just wanted to make fun of it subtly. Though it's not very subtle when one of the major lines is, "Find the Halo, win the war," which is nonsensical butthole speak. Pretty much half of the lines in this entire show feel like they were generated by a clever bot. Like, it feels AI generated. It's crazy that the show's in the state that it's in. They take a beloved franchise like Halo and make this wet fart out of it. I don't get the point at all. This shit is more cringe than the butt ugly Martians. It really feels like they initially wrote a generic sci-fi script but knew it wouldn't do that well, so they slapped Halo on it just for some guaranteed eyes on the project. But I don't think it worked out super well for them because most people I know stopped watching after the first 3 episodes. Across the entire 9 episodes, there's only 4 action scenes, and I'm not one of those guys that just needs to have my hand on my dick watching mindless action to be entertained, but those are the only good moments in the show. They do the action well. I actually thought they did a good job of making Master Chief and all the other Spartans on Silver Team look really badass and show just how strong one Spartan can be. They really do a great job of showing how fucking amazing the Spartans are. So that's when the show's at its best, when it's just giving you action. Everything aside from that is so bad. Now, I already made a video on Halo up until episode 8, but now that episode 9 is finished, this is just going to be like a little moist meter for it. So episode 9 is actually one of the better episodes of the series, which isn't exactly high praise because the whole series is bad, so it's like comparing shit to poop. But what really carries episode 9 is like the last 20 minutes where they finally go to the Covenant homeworld. They finally take the fight to the Covenant, and it is probably only the 3rd time the Covenant have ever even been in the show. The majority of everything that happens in the show is just family drama and the Spartans having memories and Master Chief fucking because he falls in love with a girl after meeting her twice. So outside of that, the Covenant have just barely even had a role to play in this show until the very end of this episode, and they do a great job. They actually set up an entire level that seems like it was lifted right out of Halo Combat Evolved, so I give them props there. They did a great job with the set. So the Spartans drop in, they hot drop, fucking nuts to butts. They're killing all kinds of grunts that are sleeping, which is a nice homage. They kill all kinds of elites, they're fighting the brutes, and it's really flashy, it's really cool, and the entire time it looks like a level straight out of Halo. It's really, really enjoyable. But then towards the end of the fight, it goes back to Master Chief being whiny, stinky diaper baby man, who then, goes back into the mainframe of the artifacts, and he's talking to McKee, and he's crying, he's all upset, and then she gets shot, and he's like, "No, don't do that, why'd you get shot? Ah!" And it's hard to even care about the character because you don't really get to see her much. She doesn't do much. She's just more of a nuisance. You don't know anything about her, so the audience doesn't really care that she gets shot, but John does. And then in his sorrow and despair, he lets Cortana take over his whole body in order to get the artifact out and save his Spartans. So now Cortana takes over Master Chief and he becomes basically a fucking fleshlight for Cortana to use. So Cortana / Master Chief kill all the Covenant around them, take the artifact, and they zip off the planet. And there's a massive plot hole here because all 3 of the prophets are right there, right above the artifact that Cortana takes. She could have killed the prophets. They weren't guarded or anything. She could have just killed all 3 of them and then taken the artifact and pretty much put the kibosh on the entire Covenant right away. But that was never even briefly thought of in Cortana's infinite wisdom. But anyway, that's where episode 9 ends. Everything before that is just more boring garbage where it's Halsey's doing questionable moral things and then they're trying to hunt her down and kill her for all of her crimes. But she manages to elude them, and then at the end you see her plotting to propel humanity forward to the transcendence and shit like that. But what I think is the best part about episode 9 is it completely forgets about Qua Han. And I think that's when the show's at its best. So the last two episodes didn't have Kwa Han in them, and they were better episodes. I really think Kwa Han was one of the worst additions they could have made to the show. And I want to again specify, I think the actress that plays Kwa Han did a great job. It's just that character had no impact on anything that happened in this show at all. Everything played out exactly the same as if Kwa Han wasn't there. She contributed nothing. So all of those episodes spent with her were useless. They didn't do anything. They didn't lead to anything. Maybe they do in season 2, but even still, it's hard to get excited about that because her entire plotline was so annoying and so boring. Why even have her there? I really think the best thing that can happen to the Halo show is lightning strikes the office and hits the season 2 script, and when they're rewriting it, they forget Kwa Han ever existed in the first place. Or even better, they don't even bother rewriting season 2 script and just chalk it up as just a loss. And then we only had to deal with one insultingly awful season of this show. That would probably be the best case. Anyway, plugging the Halo show into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 30%. Like I said, I do think the action carried it. I thought they actually did a really decent job with it. The set pieces that they put on there really did make it feel like it came straight out of the game. And I wish I had seen more of that, considering there were so few action sequences. But what I really wish is that the show was just good and not dog shit. I wish that they actually bothered putting any amount of care into this show as opposed to just making it a generic sci-fi bore fest. So yeah, that's really about it. Yeah, I'm happy to say they've finally done it. They've finally not ruined an IP with a terrible adaptation. At least not yet. We're only one episode in, but I'm already twirling my shirt over my head right now because the first episode of The Last of Us show wasn't unwatchably, insufferably horrible like most adaptations are these days. It was actually good. Finally, we've got another adaptation that is faithful to the source material and also not an absolute stinky pile of garbage. Again, we're only one episode deep, so there's still plenty of time for them to fly off the rails and ruin it. Maybe in episode 2, they start introducing aliens. Episode 3, they bring in ghosts. Like, they could fully tank this show, but right now, episode 1 is absolutely fantastic. And this has been kind of a roller coaster for me, because when the first trailer dropped, I was cautiously optimistic that it'd be good. But then the more the showrunner spoke, the less confident I became. They did the worst PR run for this show I could have imagined. The showrunner would say things like, "Oh, dying in The Last of Us game is just pixels on a screen. It's going to be so much different in the show," and like kind of belittling the property, like the source material, for no reason. And then they'd also celebrate the fact that they instructed their talent to not play the games for some reason. Just a lot of things they'd say that made me scratch my head and go, why would that make me excited as a fan of the first Last of Us game? I still don't get that Galaxy Brain strategy, this like chess master's PR move where like the way to get people hype is by letting people know that they didn't play the games. I don't get it. Like, hey, Last of Us fans, we made sure none of our talent played the games. Hoorah! You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But regardless, despite all of that, they pulled it together and made an absolutely spectacular episode 1. And it's so refreshing because you may remember, you know, in the Bible there was that period where the Lord flooded the earth. Well, we've right now entered that age again, but instead of flooding the earth with water, he's flooded the earth with absolutely dog shit adaptations from other IPs that are beloved. So we've had things like the Halo show, the Resident Evil Netflix show, Witcher Blood Origin, Velma, like it just doesn't stop. And now we have a new adaptation that's not shit. Like, it, you know, the flood may be over. Maybe we're finally going to get to an era where adaptations are faithfully done. And it's not like this is the only one. There have been some great ones recently, like Arcane as well as Cyberpunk Edge Runner. But the point is, this one's great, and I'm happy about it. I've said from the beginning it'd be very hard to fuck up a Last of Us show if you just follow the game one-to-one. And for the most part, they do follow it pretty one-to-one in certain cases, but they add a lot of their own elements to the show, so it's not just a carbon copy of the game. And I actually really liked a lot of what they put into this. It wasn't just like ham-fisted, useless details that don't matter. They really crafted quite a bit to flesh out the universe pre-breakout. Like, they build the world around it pretty well. Like, they give context of like the fungus and stuff where it goes back to an old interview going over things. They then also transition into showing the relationship between Joel and Sarah more. In the game, it's an iconic intro, and I still think the intro is the best that gaming has to offer. The Last of Us intro is a masterpiece, and the show does a fucking amazing job of capturing that. and also bringing you to it. In the game, it gets very quickly to the truck, going through the city and all the chaos and all that. It takes you into the action pretty quickly because it's a game and they don't want the player to get bored or start to lose interest. Usually when a game's really heavy-handed on cutscenes, some people like to whine and complain like, oh, this shit is just watching a movie. It's just an interactive movie, not a game. Boo, throwing tomatoes. So the game quickly gets you to like the action parts to get the player hooked and interested. Well, the show has the benefit of not needing to worry about that kind of bitching, so it actually spends a good chunk of time just showcasing Sarah and Joel's relationship as well as focusing on things that Sarah was doing right before the breakout happened, and I think that really adds to the overall, like, greatness of that iconic intro, because the show, I am so happy to say, follows that intro really well. It puts the camera in the truck, just like in the games, as they're driving through, all kinds of like fucking wild shit's happening around them, people getting blown up, eaten, things going to shit everywhere, and it's capturing that insanity, that madness, all from the perspective of inside the truck, and it is fucking great. I'm super happy they didn't try and get like stupid with it and try and make it something different. Like, I'm glad they just took what the game did and made that magic happen again in the show's format. I think they did a really great job with the intro. I have legitimately zero complaints about how all of that played out. That was one of the big things I was worried about. Like, how can you possibly recreate that scene in a show and do it even nearly as well as the game? But they did. I'd say it's on par with the game's intro for sure. Now, there was one other major change that they announced they'd be making in the show that is very different in the game. And a lot of people were pretty upset about it, but I was pretty indifferent. And now seeing it in the show, I do think the change is fine. That was their decision to remove spores entirely. If you played the game, you know the role spores play. In the show, they're not using spores. Now they're using like these little tendrils, like these little feely finger things that pop out of their mouth and they transmit the infection to each other like that. But it's not spores anymore. And I don't really care. It doesn't change things drastically, in my opinion, to have it be little fucking wieners popping out of their mouth like tickling people for the infection versus it being the spores. I didn't care too much when I heard that, but I know a lot of people were upset. After seeing in episode 1 here, even though it didn't play a major role yet, I can see that it's not going to be something super huge. At least I don't think it will. I don't think the decision to change from spores to tendrils is necessarily going to be that big of an issue that's going to cause problems for the narrative. So I'm not bothered by it, but I do fully understand people that are. In the game, spores, they get airborne, so you'd have to wear the masks in order to protect yourselves. Well, since there's no longer spores in the show, you don't really need to worry about that. So there's not a ton of like mask up moments kind of thing. And to me, that doesn't bother me too much, but it does make it much more like a normal zombie show where the only way to get the infection is through getting, groped by the mouth tendrils stuffed. Like, I do get it. I understand that the airborne spores in the game make it a little more unique from just standard zombie schlock. But in the show, I just don't see what that would have added to even bother with it, because you just put on a mask and all of a sudden everything's back to normal, right? So, I'm sure they could have played around with it, but let's think about it in the game's way. Like, in the game, it wasn't necessarily about, like, avoiding the infection because the spores are everywhere. It was really just all about the characters and their relationship and going through this fucking brutal world. So I feel like it just doesn't change a whole lot to just take the spores out and make it more about, like, direct transmission contact in the show. Now, maybe it gets bad later on, like maybe this does have a huge detrimental effect on the story going forward. I don't see that happening, but I do think it is possible. We're still obviously very early here, but right now, I'm not bothered by that change. Overall, I just feel like they've done an outstanding job adapting this property and also adding to it. The extra stuff they put in here that wasn't present in the game doesn't feel like extra stuff. It feels very good. It feels very at home in the universe. Like, it fleshes out the story even more, it adds to it, so I think they've just done a really great job so far. They've also added a couple new characters. Don't know exactly the size role they're going to play in the story going forward. I also hope that this serves as an example to all the major studios out there that keep just eating up IP like fucking Galactus and then just wiping their ass with it, producing some of the worst adaptations imaginable. I hope they'll look at this and the success of The Last of Us show, at least episode 1, and see that the reward is far greater if you just put in actual effort to adapt the properties the way they should be, faithful to the source material, and even bring on the people responsible for its creation in the first place. Neil Druckmann is clearly on board for this show, and it is very obvious. What should have been a no-brainer to absolutely everybody has apparently become super rare. You shouldn't be giving your IP to people that don't know anything about it and actively fucking dislike it, like with the Halo TV show. I'm hopeful that The Last of Us show will continue to be this good. Hopefully it even only gets better from this point forward. I'm actually very excited to see more of it, so just wanted to talk about this because what a nice, pleasant surprise. A breath of fresh air with a great video game adaptation. That's about it. So yeah. The title's not clickbait. There's something I need to complain about. Shocking, I know. It's not that I want to complain, it's that I have to. I'm being forced to by a powerful spiritual presence that's working me like a puppet. Like this whiny demon inside of me that needs an exorcism, and the only way to get it is through talking about something that's made me a bit perturbed, to say the least. And that is this non-stop attack on everything I love. All of my favorite properties that I grew up with are getting adapted into either movies or TV shows, and all of them are terrible. Jesus Christ, I feel like my brain has been stun-locked thanks to the Halo TV show, something that I dreamed about, wet dreams as a kid, finally making it to reality with the Halo television program, and it was an unforgivable fucking war crime of a production, a damn near violation of the Geneva Convention for how atrocious that show was, and it hasn't stopped there. So often, they are adapting beloved game franchises that I cherish near and dear to my heart and just turning them into laughably pathetic shows. I swear to God, like there's more dog shit video game adaptations on streaming services than there is dog shit in downtown Tampa sidewalks. It is absurd how often this is happening now. Now, of course, not all of them are bad, but you can pretty much count all of the good video game adaptations on one hand. It's very rare that they do a great job of it. And then this brings us to the topic of today's video that served as the catalyst, the little spark here for my whining. Peacock has a Twisted Metal TV series that's hitting their platform next month, and they released a new trailer for it today that makes it look like a bit of a stinker. And watching it made me more upset than when I realized my growth plates had closed and I wasn't getting taller than 5'6". Just a trailer that I feel missed the mark in getting people excited for it, because this is a franchise that I fucking love as well as many others, and it just didn't really do it justice, I don't think. Also, looking at the description of it on Peacock here, a post-apocalyptic live-action comedy TV show based on the classic 90s PlayStation combat game, makes me sick. Twisted Metal does have its goofy moments. It has very self-aware silliness and a lot of humor in there, of course. But it's a lot more than just a comedy. This should read like a post-apocalyptic, over-the-top, fucking full-throttle, nuts-to-butts action series with some comedy as well, like dark comedy. Because that's what Twisted Metal is. Like, Jesus Christ, Sweet Tooth, who is in the trailer, we're gonna get to all the trailer stuff in a minute. Sweet Tooth is a fucking psychopath serial killer who has an incredibly dark past and an incredibly dark storyline, as well as many other characters, but Sweet Tooth in particular. In the most recent game, he is a fucking maniac who killed his family, and his daughter was the one person he was unable to kill. So his wish with Calypso and winning the event was that he would be able to get to his daughter so he can finally kill her because it's been bothering him for so long. And it turns out his daughter, after witnessing Sweet Tooth killing the whole family, was so traumatized she killed herself. So when Calypso grants Sweet Tooth's wish, he buries Sweet Tooth in the coffin with his daughter. And that's how it ends, with him struggling to get out after being buried alive because he's a murderous fucking psychopath whose whole mission was just killing people and finally being able to kill the one person that got away. Like, zoinks, Scoob, jumpin' Jehoosaphex. How do you take a storyline like that and then say, that character needs to sing the thong song in our Peacock series? Like, what the fuck? Like, Jeepers Creepers. There is comedy in the games, but they turned Sweet Tooth into a goddamn Saints Row character. The dialogue in the trailer for him is like something you'd see out of Forspoken when she's talking to the Gauntlet. It's embarrassing. Like, god damn it, it's making me upset. I'm fuming. I don't know what Peacock was thinking, and I feel like I need to explain what Peacock even is because it's such a nothing burger of a service. It's a streaming platform that you may have signed up for one time by accident because they advertised one decent show and you forgot to cancel it and don't realize you're paying for it. They have, like, nothing worthwhile on their platform. And I'm not exaggerating either. They really don't have a strong catalog whatsoever. You get more value out of a Farters Anonymous subscription where they deliver fart jars to your door every month as opposed to paying for Peacock. And now, they've got this Twisted Metal show here, and from what I'm seeing in the trailers, it's not looking promising. Now, again, it's not fully out, so hopefully all of these trailers are just doing it a real big disservice, and it turns into a great show, because I would much prefer it be a good show, because then we might see another game. It's been over a decade since the last Twisted Metal game, so if the show was good and successful, maybe we'd see more from the franchise. That would be great, but I'm not optimistic. Let's talk about the trailer. I can't show you the trailer because I think that's probably frowned upon, so I'm just going to describe it, and I'll show you a couple of screenshots. So the trailer kicks off with Sweet Tooth in a fist fight with a character named John Doe, which I didn't recognize the name of in the description of the trailer, so I had to look it up, and it is a character from the Twisted Metal franchise. These two are locked in some high-quality fisticuffs action. John Doe plants a mean one right on the cheek of Sweet Tooth, really socks him, clobbers him. But Sweet Tooth, being the menacing madman he is, isn't affected by it at all and says, "Aren't you a tall glass of water? Me? I'm a Hawaiian punch," and then punches him. That is some cringy shit. I imagine they wrote that trying to be like self-aware, tongue-in-cheek or something, but it's just fucking cringe. I'm about to go on a tangent rant here. What is happening to comedy writing? It's all the same formulaic garbage throwaway shit lines. It feels like it's all AI generated by ChatGPT based on the worst Tumblr scripts you've ever read in your life. I feel like it's only been snowballing out of control. Like it started with things like Saints Row, and it's only been getting worse and worse and worse. You know, then you got Redfall, Dead Island 2 writing, like, and now it's like infiltrated TV as well. Even though I feel like television humor writing's probably been stagnant and bad for quite some time now, but it just feels like it's so derivative of the same horrible throwaway comedy writing in games that's been prevalent over the last year or so, and it's just making it worse. But anyway, that's kind of the entire tone here. So if it's a comedy series and that's the level of humor, then it's dead on arrival in that genre as well. But why even take Twisted Metal and bank entirely on comedy? Twisted Metal is all about the car combat. Like, that is what Twisted Metal made its bread... That was its bread and butter. That's what it made its money on. The fun gameplay and the fun, unique characters of it. There were, of course, moments outside of the cars, and this could very well be like a very, rare instance of that in the show. But why use that as your official sneak peek? Why wouldn't you highlight the car combat? There's a line in the trailer that John Doe says where he says, "Can we go back to the cars?" And I feel like he's voicing the audience's, mind very well. He's voicing all of the audience thoughts. Can we go back to the cars? Let's see the car combat that people would expect with Twisted Metal as the name of the show, instead of this fucking lazy-ass comedy. But they don't go to the cars. Instead, the fist fighting continues. Eventually, Sweet Tooth throws John Doe up against the slot machine, and they start singing the thong song. They do a little duet thong song and then bond over it. And, then the scene ends by John Doe saying, he's ready to go to Sweet Tooth's show. I don't get how this trend is continuing of taking a beloved franchise, buying the rights to it, and then delivering something that has absolutely nothing to do with the property that you're using the name of. We already saw it with Halo, where the producers proudly talked about how they didn't even play the games and wanted nothing to do with the actual established Halo games or universe, so they gave something that nobody liked. Or we also saw it with The Witcher Blood Origin, for another quick example, where they take The Witcher and deliver something that has fucking nothing to do with The Witcher or anything established there. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe it works for a couple of cheap clicks for those curious fans of the property to see if this is going to be something worthwhile, but then they abandon it after episode 1 when it's clear that this is not made by fans of the property. I just don't get who the audience is. It's not for fans of Halo, Witcher Blood Origin, or in this case, it's looking like Twisted Metal either, and the shows are never good enough to stand on their own two legs either. They just use the property, the IP, as a crutch for really lazy throwaway garbage. You don't win. Everyone loses. You don't accomplish anything. I just don't fucking understand it. I'm really hoping that Twisted Metal ends up being surprisingly good, and that this was just a really bad marketing idea to show just a comedy scene from it, as opposed to showcasing an action scene or really any scene with the vehicles. They do have one other trailer, but it's a very quick teaser and doesn't show much of anything at all. So that one's not anything that I'm going to heavily critique. It's just supposed to be a teaser, so I don't think that one's necessarily bad. But this one is. This is like over 2 minutes. It is a sneak peek, and it's supposed to like sell people on the hype of the show. But I just don't see how it would. I don't think fans of Twisted Metal are going to be pumping their fists like, yeah, Sweet Tooth said Hawaiian Punch and then really gave him a wallop. Woo! Like, I don't see that happening. I feel like most people would rather have seen a sneak peek of the vehicle combat that Twisted Metal is known for. And it would be unique for a show. That would be hype for people who don't even know what Twisted Metal is, to see some of the crazy shit that Twisted Metal offers, with the weaponry on the cars and the crazy cars and the wild over-the-top action. But instead they just chose a dumb, stupid, not very good fist fight comedy routine scene from it. Just doesn't make sense. I hope the show's good. I'm not optimistic, and I just needed to rant about it. That's it. See ya. It takes a strong man to lift a car, but it takes an even stronger man to admit when he was wrong. I can do both, but I'll only be doing one today, and that's admitting I was wrong about a show that I thought had absolutely zero chance of being entertaining in even the slightest way. And the show that I'm talking about is Twisted Metal. It's based on a video game franchise that I cherish deeply from my childhood. All of the trailers and all of the clips they released were horrible, and I made a whole video complaining about it because I felt personally attacked. First, they make a Halo show and completely ruin it, wipe their dirty cheeks with a beloved property with a horrible show, and then all of a sudden, Twisted Metal, what's next? It's like they're going up here in my noodle and looking for all the things I used to love growing up in order to ruin them with a TV show. And I still do stand by that video. Every single piece of promotional material they released for Twisted Metal was turbo ass. But now that I've finished watching the show, since it just came out a couple days ago, I can confidently say that I subscribe to a conspiracy theory that there was some kind of internal sabotage run on this show from the inside. There was a spy looking to sink this before it even had a chance to swim. Because all of the trailers and clips are the worst moments from the show. The show itself is actually fun. Now, I know that's become a bit of a cliche when something isn't great, but you want to be nice to it, but I use that in the truest sense of the word. I don't think Twisted Metal is a great show by any means, but it is an actually enjoyable one, which I really didn't think there'd be a chance of, because, again, all of the trailers and clips made it seem like it was written by, the fucking Saints Row team from 2022. It had, like, Forspoken level dialogue and jokes. It was rough. And those jokes are in the show. Like, it is very much heavy on a lot of jokes per minute. The JPM is off the fucking charts. The jokes per minute is going to be blowing your hair back with cringe from time to time. But for every 100 stinkers, there's a couple of good ones scattered throughout there. And this was what I was most concerned of, because for some reason the trailers and clips only showed a couple of comedy routines. There is a lot of action in the show, which should be the focal point of a Twisted Metal show, since the games are all about fucking car combat with guns, missiles, and wacky, zany characters doing crazy shit like Sweet Tooth. And in the games, it gets very dark with, like, the narrative. The show, not so much. There's a couple of, like, darker moments, but very much so the show's emphasis is on comedy, but it does have a healthy dollop of action as well, which I just didn't even think it would have any at all based on everything they released prior to it coming out. So this is going to be a little pseudo-moist meter. It's nice to be pleasantly surprised because I expected this to be horrible. I really did. And I totally forgot it was even coming out, but last night on stream, chat reminded me that it came out and they were shocked that it turned out to be somewhat decent. And they're right, it is decent. I had a fun time watching it. That being said, again, it's not a great show. A lot of the writing here, aside from like jokes when it actually is trying to tell a story, is laughable. Especially with the two main characters, John Doe and Quiet. Now, their chemistry is fine, but a lot of the things that happen between them makes it seem like it actually is an AI-generated script that has a couple of bullet points that it needs to hit, but didn't really know how to naturally weave it in there. So I shit you not, in one of the episodes, there's a scene where the two of them fuck in a ball pit, then they get into an argument, then they fuck in the ball pit again, and then they get into an argument, then one of them leaves, and then there's a lightning storm, so then they have to come back, and then they, like, reconcile, and they're all good again. Like, this back and forth keeps happening, like this. It's this constant flip-flopping. Like a light switch being turned off and on like Nosferatu from SpongeBob in that episode with the hash-slinging slasher. Like, they very clearly had things they wanted to convey, but they weren't super effective at conveying it. And also, the vast majority of the conversation between the two main characters usually ends with them saying "fuck you." That's usually where the conversation will wrap up, and then they'll go on their way driving somewhere. It's pretty weak. Like, the writing isn't exactly what you'd consider fine-tuned, but what's crazy is it didn't take away from the enjoyment of the show, because it feels right at home in a stupid world. The entire universe they've built here is stupid, and every character in it is a fucking idiot. Like, the entire world got hit with, like, stupid radiation or something. There must have been, like, a fucking solar flare that blew up everyone's brain, and now everyone's got brainworms, and they're all just actual morons in this world. Which is kind of charming in its own way. The actual story of the Twisted Metal show is, 20 years ago, there was a bug that took out pretty much all electronics. The opening monologue had me rolling my eyes. It was mentioning, porn's gone, so the world collapsed. That people couldn't access the internet anymore, and the world went to shit. So now it's a post-apocalypse, it's a dystopia, and our main character, John Doe, is what's called a milkman who does deliveries for settlements back and forth. And every character you meet is dumb. Actually stupid. So when there's bad writing like this, it almost feels like it's on purpose to a certain extent, which I guess is a real blessing to the writers, because they could be as lazy as they want with, like, character relationships, and it doesn't feel awful to watch. Because you kind of expect it in this broken world filled with broken people. So, I know it sounds like I'm shitting on it, but I'm really not. Like, that's not even actually a complaint for me with the writing being bad. There's a lot of bad jokes, and that is a complaint, because there is a lot of jokes that just do not land and fall super flat. They also repeat a lot of the same jokes. Like, it's like they forgot that they told that joke an episode ago, and it's not even meant to be a callback. It's just they said the exact same thing in a different situation, and I don't believe it was on purpose. I think they just actually forgot. But there is a lot of jokes that don't work, but there are quite a few that do. And I think the real star of this show is Sweet Tooth, whom I was the most concerned about going into it, because Sweet Tooth is the face of Twisted Metal. He's not the main character here, but he does have a lot of screen time. In the video game franchise, he is a wacky character, of course, but he is fucked up. He has an extremely dark past. Like I mentioned in the last video, one of his main wish in the last Twisted Metal game is he wanted to kill his daughter. His daughter was the only person he was unable to actually kill, so his wish from Calypso was to be able to go and kill her. But it turns out she had already killed herself from the trauma that Sweet Tooth had inflicted upon her after he killed her family. So, like, it's very dark shit that Sweet Tooth deals with. And in all of the trailers and clips, they just make Sweet Tooth look to be like some kind of really embarrassing Joker clone. Like the classic, "I'm the Joker, baby" meme, right? Like, it didn't seem like they really understood Sweet Tooth as a character and what would make him both fun to watch and also intimidating and scary. Again, all of the trailers and clips make it just seem like he's going to be a goofball, we live in a society Joker meme character. Like that shit on Facebook, poop in a toilet, no one bats an eye, poop in the fridge and everyone loses their mind type energy, kind of Joker character. But in the actual show here, he shines. They do a good job with the character. He doesn't really share a whole ton in common with his video game counterpart, but it really does feel like they understood somewhat of the spirit of what Sweet Tooth should be in a live action format. So I did appreciate him. Like, I enjoyed him on screen here. Yeah, he wasn't the main character or anything, but they do have a large chunk of an episode dedicated to kind of laying out the foundation to what made Sweet Tooth crack, and what turned him into a psychopath maniac. And they also do bring in some other elements from his past that really lay the foundation for him as a character. And throughout the entire show, he's not only, like, extremely entertaining, like, the best jokes in the show actually come from Sweet Tooth, but he also has, like, the best moments in general. Most of the action that's really good filters through Sweet Tooth's kills and Sweet Tooth's driving ability and his ice cream truck. All of the best moments about Twisted Metal actually do come from Sweet Tooth, which I'm really happy about, because I thought they were going to fuck him up in a big way, but they don't. Samoa Joe as Sweet Tooth here fucking crushed it. I just really didn't dislike the show, even though there is still a lot to not like about it, because there's so much downtime in this show. There is a lot of moments where there's really nothing happening. There's some very bad visuals too. For example, there's something called like a Watkins storm or something. I'm already forgetting exactly what they called it. but basically it's like this storm with colorful lightning that keeps striking all over the place. And there's a scene, like I mentioned, where the character runs out there and John Doe gets zapped by it, and it looks horrible. It looks like something out of CW, right? Like it's horrible effects. There is a lot of well, I won't say a lot. There's a few moments like that where the visuals fucking collapse and look terrible. But even still, I just didn't dislike it. It was a lot more entertaining than I would have ever expected it to be based on everything they released for its marketing materials. I do wish they had spent a little bit longer polishing that up, because again, that in particular, that lightning storm was terrible. That was horrible. That entire scene should have just been fucking cut. It looked like an Adobe's After Effects tutorial on YouTube. It was bad. And there's a couple other moments like that. That's definitely the most egregious of them, though. And I do also wish there was more car combat. A lot of the action in the show takes place outside of cars because obviously it's easier to film that. But there is still a couple of chunks that have car combat, and that's when the show's at its best. I just wish there was more. I really wish they had leaned harder on that. I think the opening scene here is really good with the car combat. It kind of peters off a little bit there, and you don't see too much for a little while. And then towards the end, it once again gets its footing back, and they have more car combat. But there's a lot of in the middle where there's pretty much none, and I just wish there was more. I won't go on too much longer about this show. Overall, though, I'm just happy that it was entertaining. It does set itself up for season 2 that really does feel like it's supposed to be going more true to Twisted Metal itself. I don't want to get into spoilers, but the way that the season 1 here wraps up leads into what you would expect Twisted Metal to be about, a tournament. And that's very exciting. So I think they did a good job of laying out the world here with season 1. I wish it wasn't so heavy on lame jokes that fell flat. And like, they did have some good ones, and I just hope that if it does get a season 2, it puts the car combat more front and center and focuses more on refining good jokes as opposed to just an overwhelming flood of non-stop jokes. So overall, though, I'm just surprised that it wasn't a complete disaster, because all of the marketing material, all the promotional material they released for this made it look irredeemably awful. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video saying that I was wrong, and this turned out to be a pretty fun watch. That's really about it. So yeah. I wasn't even going to bother covering Halo Season 2 because it doesn't seem like most people care about it anymore after how abominable Season 1 was. It was an affront to God that insulted the very technology that gave us the ability to watch moving pictures in the first place. Halo Season 1 was atrocious. So there were very low expectations going into Season 2, but as I said on stream multiple times, the first 2 episodes I actually thought were going in a pretty good direction. Like, I was impressed. It seemed like they did bring on new people that were familiar with the property, and as I understand it, they did. And you could kind of feel a little bit more passion being put behind this project. However, there were still the remnants from Season 1 that they couldn't just write out, so instead they had to kind of change trajectory with all of these, like, pieces that were grandfathered into Halo Season 2. And I liked what they were doing with characters that were previously super underwhelming. They were putting them in more interesting positions in the overarching story as opposed to these like snooze fest side plots that no one gave a fuck about. But then this show fell back into its old ways, it stumbles, and it just starts going in the worst directions again. Until the season finale, which I actually thought was handled pretty well. There was a lot of really cool shit in the season finale, but then, even still, there was some really stupid shit too. Because it seems like, in this series, the way the plot advances is by characters making really dumb, out-of-character decisions. Like, really fucking, like, everyone happens to be getting pumped full of fucking stupid juice. And they'll just all of a sudden do something dumb, which then advances the plot in a big way. Like, that is something that's happened a couple of times now. But I do think Halo Season 2 is an improvement over Season 1, which of course isn't like the biggest compliment you can give, because that's a pretty low bar, but I am happy with some of the things about it, but overall, again, disappointed, because it's still not good. By no means is Halo Season 2 great or anything. And I wasn't going to talk about this because everyone expected it to be bad anyway. I'm not exactly enlightening anyone here by letting you know that, yep, Halo Season 2 is also bad. But then I saw this Kotaku headline. Halo Season 2 sticks the landing, I told you so. Halo series naysayers, show yourselves because the Paramount Plus show is hitting all the right notes. If those notes are fart sounds, I guess, the sound of like a fucking wet B flat in your trousers. They go on to say that it does everything a video game adaptation should do and then some, and then goes on to say that they've been saying for over a year that the show is good. That is mind-boggling to me. Like, I understand there's differences of opinions, but this opinion is so bad it should be borderline criminal. Like, this is something that should have you undergo, like, a psychiatric evaluation. What do you mean this is what every video game adaptation should do and then some? How? It doesn't use anything from what it's adapting. It doesn't take anything from the actual source material. It's telling its own fanfic, and it's doing an extremely poor job of it. Halo Season 1, they've been talking about this show being good for over a year, meaning they must have enjoyed Season 1. Halo Season 1 is bad, even if you don't know what Halo is. On its own 2 feet, it stumbles and eats shit. Halo Season 1 is just bad television, no matter how you spin it. It is a show that had a huge emphasis on the worst parts of television. For some reason, there was this fixation on showing Master Chief's cheeks, which is what gave it the title of Master Cheeks, because there were so many ass shots of him for no reason. I've already made a video covering everything I think that's wrong with Halo Season 1, so I'm not just going to regurgitate all of those points here. But the point I'm making is that this is not what video game adaptations should be by any means at all. The Halo television series is unrecognizable from the Halo franchise that it's taking from. The only thing they share in common is names and armor. That's it. You're not going to find Master Chief fucking a human that happens to be part of the Covenant, literally steaming her ham in the middle of this war by playing Halo 1 through 3, reading the books, or even, God forbid, playing the 343 Halo games. That is exclusive to just this misguided television show. Now, as I've always said, there's no point in adapting things one-to-one, because what's the point there? You need to take it in different creative directions, but this is so outlandish in the Halo universe that it doesn't have a connection. There's no point in calling it Halo. At least, this is still me talking about Season 1. I ended up focusing on that too hard because of how ridiculous that statement was in this article from Kotaku. And I know Kotaku is on life support right now, just pumping out as much rage bait as they can to try and get as many pity clicks and desperation as they can possibly muster. I get it. They're in their death spiral. But this still, like, even knowing it's rage bait was enough to make me just want to come in here and talk about Season 2 since it wrapped up. Now, going back to this, there is one thing that I do agree with them on. It's this last sentence. Action sequences felt tighter and better choreographed, emotional beats hit when they were supposed to, and the interwoven story threads made for incredibly watchable television. What I agree with from that statement is that last part. Watchable television. That's not the high compliment that the writer thinks it is. Calling something watchable is like the bare minimum. That's like the lowest possible thing you can say. That's like if you're getting bullied and the teacher makes the bully say something nice to you. Like, that is like the tiniest compliment you can give it. And that's what I can say about Season 2, is that it is watchable. And I'd even agree that the action sequences are pretty tight and well choreographed. I do think the action, when it's present in Season 2, is pretty good and interesting. Granted, you still have to suspend disbelief and just accept that everyone on screen's a fucking moron at all times, because even right away, even in the 2 episodes I was praising, there's a scene where the Marines are in a dark tunnel, and there's a Covenant on the other side, and they know there's some danger out there, but instead of turning on their light, they just keep going in like groups of two or three into the darkness to die. Like they're being led by Noah to get on the ark. 2 by 2, they just go out there and just get fucking slaughtered by the Covenant in the dark without ever turning on their flashlight, which they have. They have the technology to turn on a fucking flashlight, and they just don't. Because, fuck you, that's why. It's silly. But again, the action sequences, I do agree, are tight and well choreographed for the most part. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start by saying a few things I think Halo Season 2 does well. And the biggest thing, the big standout here, is Ackerson. Ackerson is a villain that was present in Halo lore before Season 2, and he is played by an actor named Joseph Morgan, who is actually a fan of Halo. And you can feel it through his performance. He does a great job at being the villain. And I think he was a really helpful component of this season to bring in what he knew from Halo to his role. And that really helped elevate it. Ackerson was by far the best part of Season 2, hands down. Another thing I think they did really well is actually Master Chief this season. And not so much the way Master Chief is written, but Pablo Schreiber, I'm not sure how you say his last name, as Master Chief. There are a couple of really great moments with Pablo as Master Chief where I was like, damn, if he just had some better material, a better story to work with, he'd be a great Master Chief. Like, I really bought into him as Master Chief in this season. I was like, damn, this could be the guy. Like, if we had a good Halo show, if we were in, like, the multiverse where there was a good Halo show, and Pablo was spearheading it, that shit would be a banger. I think he really does get it as Master Chief on what that role would require. I do think that in a Halo television show, you can't have him in the armor 100% of the time. In the first season, I was like, man, he should always be in the armor at least 99% of the time. But in Season 2, seeing Pablo as Master Chief out of the armor, I still got that from him. Every scene he was in, even without his armor, which is pretty much the entire show, he's only in his armor twice, pretty much. No, 3 times, actually, I think. And the rest of the time, he's spent just human being. He's just spent as John. And I still felt like, damn, that's the Master Chief. So he did a great job, really, of embodying that character, even outside of the armor. It's just such a shame that it feels like it comes in a losing effort here, because everything else around these two characters is just not good. I mentioned that Season 2 took some of the characters that had these really boring side quests that felt really insignificant to the plot, like Soren, like Quan, and it took these characters and put them into, like, the actual main juice here in Season 2. And I really appreciated that effort, but it didn't seem like they were able to commit to just actually having them as a front and center component of the story. Instead, they're still, like, off on their own little adventures half the time that you just don't care about when you look at the actual meat of this. The Covenant are about to get to the Halo ring. The humans are losing. Reach has fallen. Like, all of these really big things. And then you still have to go watch Quan see ghosts. You have to watch Soren and his wife try and locate their son. Like, that is so underwhelming when put against the big stuff. I'd rather those characters be brought in and contribute to the big stuff as opposed to just kind of being there and then still doing their side quests. Oh, I also did forget to mention one other thing I think they actually do really well. It is a huge spoiler, though, so this is your spoiler warning. The Flood. I thought they crushed it with the Flood. I was shocked by how well they did the Flood here, so I won't get into any more detail than that. I won't dive, like, super deep into spoilers, but I actually thought they handled it really, really well. Impressed with that. But honestly, it actually makes me more upset that there were some good moments here and some, like, actually very impressive shots, because it showed what could be if the rest of the show could just follow suit. There are some elements here that work pretty well, more so in Season 2 than Season 1 had. Like I said, it is an improvement. And it showed that there is the real capacity to create a great Halo show. But it's just not this. I don't know if there's just too many cooks in the kitchen working on this show or what, but there are some wonderful shots here, and then there is some stinky shots here. There's some good writing here, like with Ackerson and even some of Master Chief's lines, and then there's some terrible writing here, like with some of Kai's lines, and I'm not going to get too deep into spoiler territory, but some other horrible writing choices. There's nonsensical plot holes that are present and never addressed. It's just such a mixed bag. It seems like there are people on board this team that get it and can deliver great Halo content on the television screen. But there's just too many other moving parts behind the scenes that overwhelm that and lead to what you ultimately get here, which is an unsatisfactory season of Halo yet again. Even with all this said, I do think with the finale of Season 2, if there is a Season 3 of Halo, it's actually in a good spot to pick up and be entertaining and actually be pretty solid. I think if there is a Season 3, if they can just dial in on what worked for Season 2 and take it from where the finale ends on their high notes, we might actually see the first good season of Halo. I don't know if there's going to be a Season 3 or not. I don't think it's fully confirmed. It's mainly still speculation right now. But yeah, I guess maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but it's just there were some good moments here, and I just hate that it's still overall, not good. Like, it's still bad. I don't think it's worth watching. Like, I don't think by any stretch of imagination Halo Season 2 redeems this show and it makes it worth the slog of getting through it. It's not. But Season 3 of this show could be decent with where it's at the moment. Anyway, though, maybe I'll get into like more spoiler heavy stuff about all of the things I dislike about Season 2 on stream or something, but I won't do it here because I know people don't like to hear spoilers and all of that during these things, so I'll just leave it there and I won't continue ranting about it anymore. That's really about it. So yeah. There's two things that I think no matter who you are, you'll always get the heebie-jeebies upon hearing them. It's just something that'll put anyone on edge. The first is if someone screams fire in a crowded space, like a movie theater or a concert venue. And the second is if you're told that a beloved video game franchise is getting adapted into a television program, which is just about as painful as getting caught in a fire. Video game adaptations are all over the place. The hits hit, and the shits shit. Like the Halo series, goodness gracious, what a stinky Methodist that was. Season 1 was made by people that were proud to have never touched the Halo games, so obviously the show was kind of doomed to fail from the get-go. Season 2 was a little bit better, albeit not great by any means, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all video game live-action series are bad. We just recently saw a good one with Last of Us, for example. So with Fallout coming out, I was kind of skeptical, but I knew there was a chance that it could be good, and the trailers looked pretty decent, but I wasn't really going to rip my shirt off and start twirling it over my head like I'm at Mardi Gras begging for beads, shaking my tits. Like, there was still a chance it could end up revolting and just trash. But now that it's released, I'm happy to say that's not the case, and if you've been on the internet over the last couple days, you'll see that the reviews for this are going gushing grannies for the Fallout series. And I think it's warranted. It's actually very good. Like, much to my and many others' pleasant surprises. I thought at best it would be decent, but it's actually pretty great, all things considered. I'll avoid spoilers here, but there's 8 episodes, all of which dropped on Amazon in one big batch, so they gave you the entire payload up front, which I've been very vocal, not a huge fan of the binge model. I'd prefer it was a weekly basis, because this just means it's going to fade out of people's minds much quicker than something like an Invincible, which is another Amazon series that they do release weekly. It keeps people talking about it, and it keeps everyone on the same pace, so you can reflect on each individual episode, speculate on where things are going, and digest it that way. I think it's a lot more fun, and it gives the series a longer runway in the public consciousness. So I think it was a bit of a fumble with just dropping it all at once, but there's people that swear by the binge model like it's a fucking religion. Like, they are really into being able to sit down and binge 8.5 hours worth of content all at once and then talk about it for a day and be done. Which is totally fine. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to come in there and start like spanking your cheeks for liking something I don't. It's just I prefer the weekly model because then you get to all be at the exact same point together and you get to talk about it and it's a little bit more fun, at least in my personal opinion. But it's not that big of a deal. It's not like it has anything to do with the actual quality of the Fallout series. But I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, Fallout is very clearly made by people that are extremely knowledgeable on the games. And I think it's obviously because they brought aboard Todd Howard. They brought in Bethesda to work on this with them. This isn't a situation like with Halo where they're proudly oblivious to anything that happened in the established lore and they just make shit up, pull all kinds of garbage out of their butthole and throw it onto the screen. Here, they paid close attention to the continuity of the series. They paid very close attention to all of the lore that has been established in the Fallout universe, and they tell their own story within it, for the most part, that plays by all of the established rules. And I really like that. What should be common sense to everyone in the industry is a very rare delight, it seems, where if you bring aboard the people that helped create this property you're adapting, you get a much better product, because you're adapting with the actual creators on board to help steer the ship. Fucking mind-boggling concept, I know. Someone go ahead and tell all the other dog shit video game adaptations that this is the chemical X to the formula you need. Bring in the actual creators. I mean, this and One Piece, like, it should be pretty obvious by this point, yet we do still continue to get horrible adaptations in the space somehow. But anyway, Fallout is not a horrible adaptation by any means whatsoever. So the story really feels right at home in like a Fallout game. It's very reminiscent of Fallout 3, at least in the beginning, because it's very simple to start. You follow a vault dweller named Lucy, and some bad shit happens, and her dad gets taken, so she leaves the vault to find her dad. And of course, it gets a lot deeper than that. Obviously, it doesn't stay simple. It's a lot more than just finding pops and getting them back home. You meet a lot of really cool characters right away, like the Ghoul, who I think really is a scene stealer anytime the Ghoul is on screen. And then you meet Maximus, the Brotherhood of Steel representative. And I just gotta tell you, one of the biggest compliments I can give this show is that they fucking nailed the aesthetic of Fallout. Every single frame of this show oozes Fallout. At no point did I ever get the impression that they're just doing some kind of bad cosplay. All of the sets, and especially the power armor, look phenomenal. I've seen a complaint from actual drones that are just trying their best to find things to hate about the show, saying that it's just nothing but references and that it never actually captures the ambiance of Fallout. What a bunch of hooey. Like that, there's plenty of things you cannot like about this show. I openly admit that it's not perfect, but that is one that you are actually making up a bunch of gobbledygook for. Because this show fucking nails the Fallout vibe. From its sets, to its costumes, to its world, to its writing, everything in this show is a slam dunk with capturing the feel of Fallout. Now, my favorite Fallout is actually Fallout 3, even though I recognize Fallout New Vegas is the best Fallout game, probably. I don't even know why I'm saying probably. I think objectively Fallout New Vegas is the best Fallout game. It is extraordinary, and if you check my channel, some of my earliest videos that started to get shared elsewhere were Fallout New Vegas videos I was making because I put so much time into it. But there was something super special about Fallout 3 in particular that really sunk its fangs deep into my soul. It captured me in a way that very few games had prior and very few games have since. When that game came out, I spent that entire summer just basically doing everything possible in Fallout 3 and then some. I put so many hours into that game in one summer, it was like I was trying to train to be a fucking pilot. I put more hours into that than pilots do into flight simulators. I was going crazy with it. But I do recognize Fallout New Vegas is the best game in the franchise, to be honest. But the reason why I'm pointing this out is because when watching the show, it's very easy to see references and little Easter eggs to things directly from the game. But to say that the show is nothing but references is so fucking stupid. Actually brain dead to make that as some kind of complaint. Because this show is not just relying on cameos and references and fan service. It tells a really good story. It has beautiful presentation. Its visuals are extraordinary. And we'll get into even more compliments here in a minute. But there is so much more than just referencing the games. But as someone who puts so much time into a lot of the Fallout games, there are very clear little Easter eggs and references. But that's not at all the bulk of the show whatsoever. And it's ridiculous to even try and make the claim that it is. So I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, I think this show is going to appeal to pretty much everyone, even if you don't know that it's based on games or anything. Even if you have no idea what Fallout the franchise is, if you just see this come across your Amazon, you're like, I'll check it out. I think this show is going to hook you immediately. From the very beginning, the intro with the bombs dropping, breathtaking. I thought that was great. And the action is so violent and so gory, I was surprised. I thought it would be pretty violent and gory given how Fallout goes, especially with VATS and everything, but I didn't think they'd really be able to capture the feel of VATS in live action. Boy howdy, I was very wrong. The very first time the Ghoul gets into his gunfight in a town where he just slaughters, brutally massacres 20 different dudes, it is a thing of beauty. They do it masterfully with slow-mo that doesn't feel like Zack Snyder Rebel Moon slow-mo where it's just useless and bloat. It feels so stylized. So he's got his little gizmo, his little doohickey that's shooting these giant fucking mini nukes almost from a pistol, like a revolver, and it's piercing people and blowing their entire spine out their ass. Half of someone's head gets blasted off in a collateral, and he's just going around in circles like it's Deadeye out of Red Dead Redemption. It's so cool. They really nail the VATS system feel in live action. It was extraordinary. And I think that's going to hook anybody, even if you don't know it's supposed to be VATS inspired. It was great. And like I said, I really do like the narrative here, and I really like the writing of the characters. None of the characters feel annoying. It doesn't feel like they're trying to just emulate some of the greatness that the games captured with some iconic characters. It feels like they really took the writing style of what worked in the Fallout games and made believable characters in live action here out of it. At no point, for example, Lucy, I never felt like she was annoying or anything. She's the naive vault dweller, and now she's in the surface world, and things are super different up here, and she conducts herself in a very peculiar manner. In the scene I'm mentioning with the Ghoul, she's like, listen, sir, I don't know who the aggressor was, But I think we can all agree that maybe it's time you get out of here. Scram! Get out of town, or I'll be forced to use deadly force against you. That kind of thing. And it doesn't feel corny. It feels fresh. Like, it really does. However, this isn't necessarily in regards to character writing, but just general writing. There are so many plot conveniences that happen that you start to go, interesting. Like, it's important to take note that this is a huge world, right? Yet somehow, people are exactly where they need to be, when they need to be. And they keep, coincidentally, just like running into each other and fucking stumbling into the exact position they need to be in for the story to continue the way that it has. Like, I get that it's a show, but at certain points it was like, come on, are you fucking kidding me? You're telling me, like, in the middle of fucking nowhere you were able to find this and do that? Again, I'm trying to avoid the spoilers, but even by episode 2, I think many of you will know what I'm trying to talk about here. Maybe it's a stylistic choice. It's inspired by the video game's fast travel. So all the characters in the show can literally, like, fucking Goku instant transmission exactly where they want to be, immediately when they want to be there. Like, maybe it's on purpose. In fact, there was a couple moments towards the end of the season that did feel like they were like, alright, come on, let's start to finish this off here. We've got deadlines to meet. Let's start to really make a push to the finish line. Like, there are certain things, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers, that do feel like they are rushed towards the end. But I don't think that really takes away from the overall experience of the season either. It wasn't that detrimental, but it was a little sad to see that it did seem like it was trying to hurry itself along. But I don't have any major complaints about, like, the overall narrative of the show. However, I did decide to look into those that do, because there were a lot of people that were very vocal about how much they hated the direction the narrative went, which was a little surprising to me. And for the most part, what I'm seeing is people didn't like how it handled the New Vegas element of the show. This show fits in the Fallout universe, like I said. So New Vegas, I'm really trying to avoid spoilers, but New Vegas, it's here in a certain capacity. And a lot of people thought that the show was kind of spitting on it to a certain degree and kind of just like writing New Vegas off, or not really paying respect to what New Vegas canon solidified to a certain degree. And I just have to disagree. Like, I really feel like the show, if it continues, is actually going to put a pretty big emphasis on that going forward. At least that's the impression I get. Like, I didn't really get what a lot of people are saying about how New Vegas was handled here as being a negative thing. At least not yet. I guess we'd have to see where the show goes going forward. But right now, I just really don't think they did anything wrong with it. At least nothing that would make me upset. And this is coming from someone who does love New Vegas, the game. So I really don't think they made any bad decisions with the lore. Now, of course, I'm not like a lore expert in Fallout or anything, so maybe there are certain things, like little tidbits that they messed around with. I saw a lot of people mentioning things about the NCR and how they didn't really handle the NCR properly in regards to their presence in the games and where they should be in the year that this takes place. And I guess that could be a very valid complaint, because again, I'm not entirely sure on the specifics of the timeline of the games and where everything fits. But for the show, everything really does work, and I feel like they're not backed into a corner where they can't fix certain things that might be a little out of whack with the timeline going forward. I feel like there's a lot of flexibility going forward with it if it continues. But actually, there is one narrative choice that they made that I didn't really like that much. I wasn't exactly pumping my fist when it came to a certain twist that they put out there that I'd never really seen present in any of the Fallout games, but maybe I'm just some kind of fucking stupid Neanderthal that sleptwalked through it. But this is going to be a minor spoiler. I'm not going to give like big spoilers, but it has to do with something in regards to vault tech and pre-war. And there's a certain angle that they hint at, play at, and go down in the show that doesn't really make sense to me given the state of the world of Fallout. Like, to me, it just doesn't work all that well unless there's like some kind of bigger galaxy brain scheme that I can't quite figure out. But when it comes to the world ending, I feel most organizations would probably look at that as a net loss, because then you can't really control as many people, you can't make as much money, you really lose a lot when the entire fucking world ends. It really wouldn't be the end-all be-all goal for pretty much any company, I would think. But anyway, I feel like I'm already giving away a little too much when it comes to that whole section there. But I did want to point that out because I didn't like that all that much. Maybe it'll be a bit deeper down the line, but for now I just thought that was a little silly. But overall, I do think the show is pretty extraordinary. This is another one of those video game adaptation bangers where they actually had a team that was passionate about it, a team that was knowledgeable on it, and delivered something great. So if I was to give Fallout a score on the moist meter, I'd probably slap that puppy with a cool 90%. Like, I really do think this is a show worth watching, even if you're not familiar with the Fallout games or the universe at all. I still think this is a show you're going to enjoy. It's hard not to like it, to be honest. No matter what familiarity you have with the property, it's just a really fucking cool show that's really well done. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. In life, there's pivotal moments where you really have to stop and self-reflect and really think about what kind of person are you? And today I entered into this moral conundrum as I looked myself in the mirror after brushing my teeth. I stared into my soul and I thought, am I really the kind of lowlife that would take pleasure in dancing on the grave of something? And the answer is a resounding yes when it comes to the Halo TV show. If the world looked a little bit brighter today, it's because news broke that the Halo series was cancelled after its second season, and even God was smiling, so he parted all of the rain and just gave us sunshine. This is absolutely a finger-wagging moment for sure here. The Halo series is one that I've talked about a few times. I think I've made 3 videos on it. When it was first announced, a lot of the people behind the show were bragging about how they never played the games because it's like beneath them. They wanted to do their own thing and whatever. Just taking some level of pride in their ignorance on the property that they were supposed to be adapting. It really felt like they just looked down on the property, just fucking spitting on it and beef stewing it like, oh, we're adapting a video game, yucky, but don't worry, we know best. So we're gonna make something actually good here for you stupid nerds. And I went into season 1 with an open mind, as I always do, but it was just bad. It was so shitty, in fact, that it kind of got the nickname Master Cheeks, because Master Chief in the show had his bare butt cheeks out so many times and almost was never spotted wearing his armor or helmet or anything. The man is a super soldier that's always dressed for spring break, and it wasn't a good series at all, and it's not my biggest complaint with him not being the one-to-one carbon copy of this video game counterpart. I'm fine if you want to feed me the vegetables like, hey, we need to flesh out Master Chief a little bit here so he's going to be out of his armor occasionally. That's okay as long as you make it meaningful. It just wasn't in the show. I'm going to hit you with the cold water right now. No one wants to watch Master Chief fuck. And no one wants to watch Cortana watch Master Chief fuck. They turned her into a cuck. No one wants to see that. If you're adapting a beloved series like Halo, you're going to be getting fans going into it, and no fan wants to watch that. You're not going to be hooking an audience that's unfamiliar with Halo, at least not on a big scale. And even if that was the goal, Season 1 truly failed at that because it was just bad in its own right. It's not just a bad Halo show, it was a bad show. From top to bottom, it was a bad season. A couple of decent moments with a few fights, like the final episode actually was the best episode of the season, and it's because fucking Master Chief gets brain jacked into just being the Master Chief from the games briefly, where that's the only time things actually worked pretty well. The rest of the series was just dog shit. It focused on things nobody cares about. It told a story that had no real depth or intrigue to it whatsoever. It was so flat and lame. By the time season 1 finished, most people had either dropped it or completely wrote it off, and just praying with fingers crossed that a season 2 wouldn't come. But unfortunately, there was come. I don't know who at Paramount Plus convinced the higher-ups that it was a good idea to double dip here and try and make a season 2 out of this train wreck. Again, most of the audience had already dropped it. There wasn't a lot of interest. People weren't like fucking biting at their nails, scratching at their neck, hyperventilating, salivating for another season of this dog shit. Yet someone convinced them that it was worth investing for a second season, so they did. It's like when the studio execs were blindsided by memes and thought that Morbius was actually a superstar, like a cinema darling. So they actually re-released Morbius only for it to flop again. Like, that's kind of what happened here with Halo Season 2. For some reason, they thought that this time around it might do well, and it still didn't. Now, as I mentioned when I talk about this, it did start off a little better. And there definitely were better moments in Season 2 than Season 1. Like, overall, it was an improvement. Season 2 got new staff on board from what I read. that actually seemed to care a little bit more about the property, and they introduced a new character that was already an established character in Halo lore. Thank God. They brought in a character and tried to keep it true to how he was in the lore. That character was Ackerson, and the actor who was portraying this character apparently is an avid Halo player. So he brought a renewed energy to that role, which did help, but the show was truly still directionless. It was still a fucking mess. So they started to do the exact same sins as season 1, where they started focusing on shit no one cares about. I don't know why, because they actually started to bring all of those characters from the little side quests that everyone would snooze through into like the bigger scope of season 2. Like they started to bring all the characters together, only to then still once again put an emphasis on the shit no one cares about. Like the Kwa Han storyline and all of that. And they also brought back McKee, which I'm positive none of you remember any of these characters' names, so I'll explain. McKee was the human covenant that Master Chief fucks. Like, she and him get together and they share this romance that really comes out of nowhere. There's no fucking chemistry there at all. So they had sex in season 1, and she died at the end of season 1, only to be brought back in season 2, and once again reignite the worst romance plot television has ever seen. Fucking CW productions do better romance than the Halo series. I don't even know why they tried to fucking shoehorn this in there. I'm not here to just re-review Halo as a series again. I will say though, I really do think Master Chief's actor here, Pablo Schreiber, I can't remember how you say his name. I really do think he could have been a good Master Chief if he just had better material to fucking work with. Like, there are some moments in season 2 that I thought could have been great, and there were some moments that were pretty decent, like the flood, for example. But none of it leads to the show being good. Again, Halo Season 2 is better than Halo Season 1, but that's like saying poop is better than shit. I've used that expression before, but that's really what it feels like in this series. I don't know why they would take a property like Halo and transform it into something that's completely unrecognizable from what it's borrowing from. There's no winning in that scenario. And this announcement that it's canceled after 2 seasons should really send a strong message to every other studio out there that does shit like this, because it's not exclusive to just Halo. We've seen it happen with, like, The Witcher, for example. This isn't uncommon, but I don't know why it's ever something that gets considered. Like, hey, we want to make this beloved property into a television show. Let's make sure everyone who works on it has never even heard of this property, and we'll wing it. Now, I'm sure we know what's best for those fans, and they're going to love it, and they'll appreciate it. They'll pat us on the ass. They'll suck our butts out. They're going to really love it. And then you have shows like Halo. A very expensive pill to swallow when you have to cancel because everyone hated it. It's a lesson that shouldn't even need to be learned. It should just be common sense. Like, you can just look at other shows that are successful at this kind of shit, like The Last of Us show, or even more recently, Fallout, where you have the property being adapted to a show, and it's not one-to-one. Both those shows took very different directions, but it was still very recognizable in the property they were adapting, and they also had people on board that were very familiar with the property they were adapting. Thus, they were able to create something that was good for both fans and people who have never even played or heard of the games. I don't know why studios can't see the success of shows like Fallout and Last of Us and just be like, oh, okay, so that's how we should do it going forward. I don't know how we still end up with shit like Halo. I also can't help but mention the chutzpah here that even in the midst of canceling Halo with Paramount Plus, they are still trying to shop it around for another service that will pay for it to bring another season. The fucking chutzpah to think that somehow this stinker is worth a 3rd season, like another streaming service taking the chance and financing another one of these, is crazy. Like, they are huffing their own farts and are getting delusional off it, getting loopy from it. How? It's a clear message here that no one wants to watch more of this show. You have a couple of decent things in there, like the flood at the end or the final episode of season 1, but you are showcasing, you had 2 chances now. you are showcasing that you cannot make a good Halo show. So why the fuck would anyone else want to take a chance with this team? It doesn't make sense to me that they would still want to try and find a buyer for it. And what's also even more sad and pathetic is that I'm pretty confident that there will be some sucker that's going to do this. Someone's going to take the bait, hook, line, and sinker, and they're going to pump a ton of money into this, and they're going to make a big season 3 of Halo, and again, it will fucking flop. I'm just going to go ahead and put that prediction out there right now. I bet someone will actually buy this and deliver a season 3. And I guess we'll see how it goes from there. But it shouldn't be getting a season 3. I don't know how in Hollywood you can just continuously fail upwards. And it's not just Hollywood, actually. It's so much of the upper echelon of, like, tech and anything. Like fucking John Rizzitiello, the guy who failed at EA and then failed at Unity and continues to just find himself in these big positions. It's just once you reach a certain level of power in those kind of industries, you just can't fail downwards like everywhere else. In those industries, it's only upwards. Like, oh, you delivered 2 huge flops for Halo and everyone hated it? Well, come on board. Do you want to be CEO of Amazon? Like, you're more than qualified. Like, it's unreal. So I really do think that it will get that season 3 bought from another platform. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this because it is a good thing that it got canceled. This should be a message for every studio going forward looking to do adaptations that you should at least be somewhat faithful to the property you're adapting instead of being outwardly shitting on it. So yeah, anyway, that's about it. So yeah. PU, Borderlands movie is a big stinker. Everyone knows it. If you've seen the movie, I'm sorry. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm jealous. It's truly atrocious no matter how you spin it. Every possible thing you could ever hope to enjoy about a film is absent in the Borderlands movie. I think it's unanimously hated across the board. If you find me one human being that says it's a good movie, I'll find you a liar. But I'm not here to just shit on the movie again. I did plenty of that yesterday. I cleaned out my whole colon on Borderlands yesterday. Today, I want to talk about the Take-Two CEO's response to the criticism, because it's not getting stellar reviews. There's not exactly glowing reviews. There's not a whole lot of enthusiasm behind what people are witnessing. And I'm using the word witness instead of watched because when you witness something, it's usually something traumatic, like some kind of tragedy, and that is very much what this movie is. So no one's happy about it from what I can tell, for good reason. It's just bad. And now good old goober Strauss Zelnick has spoken out about this, urging people to give the film a chance. Yeah, it may have debuted at a 0%, then finally up to a 3%, and then eventually even a 6%. Really fucking shooting to the stars there. But hey, don't let that cloud your judgment of it. You know, as Darman taught us, you can't judge a book by its cover. Go give the film a chance. Go waste your money on this movie, says Strauss Zelnick. Now, Strauss Zelnick is the Take-Two CEO, and he's no stranger to putting on the squeaky nose. But god damn it, this clown always finds a way to surprise me with just how delusional he is. When asked if the film's success or failure will make any meaningful impact on Take-Two, Zelnick said no. Financially, the film won't make a dent. Then he dropped to his knees in his private jet saying, "Give the film a chance." Let's give the film a chance. A lot of people worked really hard on it. The underlying intellectual property is phenomenal. The cast is amazing. I think the look and feel is really terrific. So let's see what audiences have to say. But to answer your question, no, the performance of the film wouldn't have a financial impact on us or on the franchise one way or another. I am certain Strauss Zelnick has never touched Borderlands in his life. If he ever even held a game controller, I bet that shit would burn his flesh like a vampire in the sunlight. The guy is just a corporate drone. He is this husk that has human flesh grafted onto it. He's just this being of greed. He doesn't know Borderlands. I doubt he's ever touched the game, and I'm pretty confident he hasn't watched the movie either. In fact, I'm more confident that he hasn't seen the film than I am confident that the sun will rise tomorrow. I also love how he mentions the cast being terrific. How out of touch can you fucking be? That's one of the biggest complaints about the film from everyone with eyes. The casting in this movie makes no sense at all. It's clear the bulk of the budget went with just getting A-list celebrities on board. And they probably had to pay out the wazoo for it because none of them really seem like they want to be there at all. So they probably had to fucking fork over fat doubloons like Scrooge McDuck here to get them to put their name on this pile of dog shit. It is an embarrassing movie, and the actors seem embarrassed to be in it. So they spent all of their money getting Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, Cate Blanchett, Jack Black. Jack Black being the only one that tries at all in this film. Everyone else just like fucking sleepwalks through it. That is not something to highlight. It's very clear that the entire strategy for this film wasn't to make a good movie. It was to just try and sell tickets by having big names attached to it. It's the worst tactic ever. It's a certified how many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man moment. There are so many video game adaptations that have come before this that have proven infinite number of times now that this formula doesn't work. If you make an adaptation that doesn't pay respect to the source material and just doesn't even try, it doesn't work. It flops financially. The reception to it is bad. Like, look at the Halo show which recently just got canceled, or the plethora of old video game movies we can all point to over the last couple decades. I don't know what puppeteer is behind the scenes, the goddamn Illuminati over there, that keeps, like, infecting the brains of these Hollywood suits that are convincing them that the way to make adaptation successful is just by getting big name actors on board. Like, it just doesn't work, and they keep doing it. It's actual insanity. They spent $90 million on this star-studded cast for this $5 fart of a film that they produced here. It makes no sense. If you make a bad movie, it doesn't matter how much star power is behind it, it's not going to succeed. I don't know how that lesson hasn't been learned yet. Strauss also reached deep into his bag of tricks here to try and get more asses in the seats by playing the classic, come on guys, people worked really hard on this film, we should all support it. There's a bear shit in the woods, obviously there were some hardworking people behind the scenes on this film. Also, Strauss, since you really seem to care so much about the hardworking team here, you might want to look into why some of them didn't receive proper credit for their work. That's a bit suspicious, that's weird. But anyway, yes, there were people that worked hard on this movie, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's immune from criticism. It is not a good movie. And I would wager a guess that a lot of the people that worked hardest on this film were not the ones that were behind the scenes lobbying and pumping their fists saying, we need Kevin Hart in this movie, we need Cate Blanchett in this movie, pay fucking hand over fist amount of money to get Jamie Lee Curtis in our Borderlands movie. I imagine there was quite a few people that were actually passionate about Borderlands that were probably fucking crushed with what they had to do on this film, because it's not like they were at the top of the food chain putting together these awful decisions. And I also imagine the VFX department was dreadfully overworked, like Hollywood has become so accustomed to doing here, because ultimately the visuals are really rough. And I never blame the VFX departments for that, because now I've become very well aware of just how cruel the industry is to that entire sector, and my heart actually breaks for them. So I imagine all of the hardest working people were the ones that Strauss doesn't know a single name of. It's so silly to try and deflect by calling in the wambulance about, like, come on, someone worked really hard on this, you can't be mean to it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It costs $15 to $20 per ticket to see this movie. That's a lot of fucking clams. And it's not worth it at all. And there is nothing wrong with talking about why it's not worth it. He then has the nerve to say that Take-Two is really selective about what games it turns into films, and says that the company doesn't want its imprint on anything unless it's superb. Really, Strauss? You would consider the Borderlands movie superb? This would meet that criteria? He then goes on to just reassure everyone that it's not core to them, you know, they don't need to be doing this because it doesn't have like a massive effect on them, like their bottom line or anything, so it'll probably maintain its approach to only doing so selectively in the foreseeable future. But this article did remind me that there is another project in the work here, a BioShock film at Netflix. If that didn't oh my god, I'm having a full-blown Porky Pig moment here out of pure disgust. If that didn't send shivers down your spine, I don't know what will. A BioShock Netflix film. following the banger that is the Borderlands movie, what a recipe for success, huh? Who's counting the days, right? Like, get your calendars ready. I can't wait for that fucking thing to drop. That's gonna be a real heater. Throw out all your DVDs and Blu-rays and forget everything you thought you knew about cinema, because it's about to be redefined with the next fucking Take-Two film project here with BioShock coming to Netflix. Oh my bussy trembles in fear at the thought of how bad that might be. If the Borderlands movie is any indication of the quality coming forward, we're in for a real treat with the BioShock film. I'm already just preparing to be really stunned at how bad that one might be. They'll drop like the announcement trailer and it'll reveal that James Corden has been cast as a Big Daddy. It's just so weird to me how we're still getting horrible adaptations. The roadmap is there. We have seen so many good adaptations recently. Like, you can see that all of the success is right there, and they just out of spite choose not to follow that and instead just be like, no, we know better than fans of the property that we're adapting. In fact, we know the direction that people actually want to see it to make it accessible to all audiences. And then they do what they did 20 years ago when every adaptation was trash. Let's all point and laugh at the absolute floundering it's doing in the box office right now. It's open to $4 million so far. On a $100 million budget, that is super rough. Unsurprisingly, people aren't just blindly going to see it because of the A-list actors in it. They're not just zombies flooding in the door to watch this pile of shit just because those names are attached to it. It seems like you actually have to make a pretty decent movie too to get people to get in the seats. What an absolute clunker. 4 million is significantly lower than I would have ever imagined for this film, and I'm actually super proud that people aren't just going to see it just because of the title of it or the actors in it. It really isn't worth the time or money. So it's very reassuring to see that it's doing so poorly here, because it, under no circumstances, should succeed. It's purely a cash grab that isn't grabbing much cash right now. They actually would have made more money if they just compiled every cutscene from the Borderlands series into a movie and released it for free on YouTube. They probably would have made more off just the fucking AdSense from that, as opposed to this $100 million theatrical catastrophe. But yeah, don't listen to Strauss. It's not worth giving the film a chance. The movie's just bad. That's about it. See ya. Minecraft is one of the most popular things on the planet. Kids grow up in that game. They end up more familiar with the Minecraft world than their own household. Like, this boogeyman doesn't exist anymore. Now it's Herobrine. Or maybe even that's outdated. I don't know. The only thing I know for sure is Herobrine is real. I watched it slit the throat of my grandfather to squeeze out the diamonds from his cold corpse. Point is, Minecraft is huge. So it was only a matter of time before a live-action movie was made to capitalize on the success of the property. And rejoice because that time is now. The Minecraft movie trailer just dropped, and the reception has been lukewarm at best. In fact, I'm being pretty generous by calling it lukewarm. There was about as much cheering for this as there was when I hit my last free throw in my high school basketball career. And it was really only my parents clapping because we got blown out in that final game. Ever since the film was announced as a live-action movie, people were quick to write it off, just saying things like, there's no way they'll be able to make that watchable, it'll probably just be garbage. And now that the teaser's dropped, that's confirmed a lot of people's suspicions that, yep, this is going to be turbo ass. Jack Black as Steve is the biggest one people are pointing the finger at here. So, Jack Black plays Steve. For those of you that don't know Minecraft, which is 0 people watching, I'll still just show you anyway. This is Steve. He's basically just playing Jack Black, but in a blue shirt. It looks like he rolled out of bed and they gave him this blue shirt instead. Alright, now you're Steve. As if it's Captain America's shield or something. It's pretty low effort from the costume department here that people were making fun of. It'd be like if they made a live-action Simpsons movie and I was cast as Homer and this was my costume, because Homer also wears a white shirt. Like, fucking porn parodies put more work into the costuming. Like SpongeBob SquareNuts. They had a whole get-up for him that you could immediately identify as, oh, that's supposed to be SpongeBob. Here, if he didn't say, I am Steve, I would have had no fucking clue, personally. Just like I have no clue who Jason Momoa is supposed to be here, he looks like a character I would have made in Dress to Impress on Roblox, just combining random shit onto the character. He looks like someone in the Witness Protection Program who's going undercover to see a Creedence Clearwater Revival concert. But at the very least, that's fun. Like Jason Momoa just being like a, quirky, zany looking character here in the trailer, like that's interesting. Jack Black as Steve is just, man, you didn't even really try. Like, Jack Black is a huge draw. Most people really like Jack Black, and he's been in a lot of huge movies recently. If I could, I'd ask the Men in Black to neuralize the knowledge of Borderlands out of my fucking cranium, so that way I don't have to remember that Jack Black was in that atrocity. But he's been in some great films, and it looks like he's the go-to now for these studio execs to pick up for children's movies. And based off this teaser, this is very clearly aimed at kids. This is made for toddlers. I'm talking like actual milk drinking, fucking snot-nosed, diaper soiling children. This isn't like the Super Mario Bros. Movie where pretty much anyone of all ages can appreciate that film. This one really seems, at least based on this very first glimpse, that it is entirely made for kids that love Minecraft. Not anyone who loves Minecraft. The style of the film is just also kind of off-putting. Danny summed it up best by saying it looks like a Honda commercial. It also just kind of reminds me of something Clash of Clans would have posted on their YouTube channel as like a Facebook ad or something. The animation style is not revolting or anything, except for this stupid fucking thing. But the integration of live action into it just is not done super well in this teaser. It really looks kind of haphazardly thrown together. Like, the live action characters just don't blend with the animation as well as I would have thought it would. This movie would have been significantly better if it was just fully animated instead of trying to shoehorn and ham-fist in like Jack Black and Jason Momoa just for the sake of having big name star power draw to it. Like, they could have voiced in it. You know, like, I don't know why they didn't take a page out of the Super Mario Bros. Playbook, which was very positively received, absolutely crushed it in the box office, and for some reason, Minecraft completely ignores that, comes out here and shits their whole ass with this teaser, which is not being positively received. If it was fully animated, I think it would have stood a far better chance. Ultimately, though, I don't think it's going to matter to the main demographic the movie is trying to appeal to, which is kids. They're not going to care. Kids will just endlessly let videos autoplay, rotting their goddamn brains, just watching like Finger Family or whatever else just happens to scroll through. Like, they're not going to be bothered by things like the live action and animation don't work together super well. But just because I'm not the target audience for this movie doesn't mean I can't insult it and point out its shortcomings. What are they gonna do? Have the Enderman come fuck me? This just isn't great looking, and a lot of people aren't very happy with it, especially because apparently it's been 10 years in the making. Like, they started scripting this back in 2014 from what I read. What a weird use of 10 years. What it seems to me, and I could be totally wrong here, I got the tinfoil hat on for this, is they may have had like a bunch of different scripts over the course of the decade, and then they started seeing video game movies succeed, like Sonic, like Detective Pikachu, like Super Mario Bros. And then they just started to rush, like, okay, we need to capitalize on this ASAP. It's hot right now. We have to strike while the iron is hot. We gotta go! And then they push this out. At least that's the impression I get here. Who knows, though? Maybe this was the original vision from the start, all the way back in 2014. They said, we need Jablinski Games in here, playing Steve. Regardless, though, right now it's only one teaser, so maybe the next one comes out and it's great. It blows us all away. You know, maybe the movie comes out and it's extraordinary. But I doubt it. And many others are doubting it as well. That's about it. See ya. I watched The Last of Us Season 2 finale after stream tonight, which was pretty late, so I didn't finish watching it till like 3 a.m. And I said, fiddlesticks, whoo-wee, need to catch some Z's. I'll go ahead and do the review in the morning. Couldn't sleep, so now it's 5 a.m. And I said, well, might as well do it now. It's never any fun not being able to go to sleep, just like it wasn't any fun watching Last of Us Season 2. Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons. So in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same. So it really conflicts with what the character's supposed to be portrayed as here, because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from season 1, even though She's supposed to be 19. So this was a big complaint I had that I already had mentioned earlier with, the episode with Joel's death, where Ellie just doesn't feel like she's changed. She still feels like that same kid from season 1 who's just constantly joking and extremely immature. And unfortunately, that doesn't change throughout season 2 at all. It still feels really out of place. In the game, Ellie has a lot more grit. Ellie is also smart in the game. For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid. Why? That just kind of betrays the character. Yeah, she's supposed to be, reckless and everything, but that doesn't mean that she's some, lobotomite. That change just didn't really make sense to me. Pretty much all of the good traits of Ellie from the game were given to Dina in the show. Dina feels like the actual main character of Season 2, whereas Ellie just feels like the quirky sidekick constantly scrambling to make a quip. Now, of course, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's all Bella Ramsey's acting's fault here for the lackluster season. And I don't really agree with that. Did Bella Ramsey knock it out of the park, a fucking grand slam, grand salami performance? No. But I don't think this material would work even if they did recast Ellie for somebody else that could embody, the grit and the intimidation that Ellie had in the game better. I don't think it would change if the material didn't. Because for some reason, Ellie is written to still be like this kid that takes nothing seriously, and all the characters that interact with Ellie in this world interact with her as kind of a babysitter. Best example is Jessie, where Jessie comes and rescues her and Dina, saves the day, and then the rest of that episode and now into this episode, there's no actual friendship between them, and in fact there really hasn't been on screen at all for the whole season, but it's so egregious here in these last 2 episodes where they're not friendly, whereas in the game you get the feeling that they will do anything for each other to keep each other safe. In the show, Jessie is literally the babysitter here, just having to sigh and put up with Ellie's attitude and just being this constant brat. So I don't even think that's Bella Ramsey's fault. That is the fault of the writing around this character. They were totally off the mark with what they tried to do here. It was much, much worse than the video game counterpart. And even if you haven't played the game, I just think most people will get the impression that Ellie is this really annoying character. There just wasn't a single moment in the season where you get the sense that she is on this unstoppable quest for revenge, an insatiable appetite for vengeance, overcome with the desire to kill the people that killed Joel. It never feels that way, because it just never seems like she cares that much. It feels more almost like a slice of life sometimes, as opposed to this dark descent into revenge and the effects it has on everyone around them. The character was written to just be constantly joking, which, again, I don't understand why, because in the game, yeah, Ellie, of course, is still kind of zany, but it's every minute of every scene in Season 2. In between perilous, sequences, where they're trying to be quiet or about to fight some infected, in between that, they're joking. In fact, sometimes in the middle of it, in the very beginning of the season, where they're about to kill one of the clicker, and they're doing sign language back and forth, and she does the miming that she's stabbing her neck and blood's pouring out. It's always joking, which doesn't work for how serious this is supposed to be. It doesn't feel intense. It takes a lot of that on edge, hold your breath, are they gonna make it out alive, anxiety out of it, because it's constantly broken up with Ellie making a joke or something, or it just not being taken seriously for some reason. And I think that's the biggest detriment to the season. That and a lot of the changes they made just don't work. I actually thought some of the changes they made to the episode surrounding Joel's death were positive. As I mentioned, I think that entire sequence with the Jackson fight was great. I think that was a really good idea. I won't just regurgitate my take on that episode, but the point is, I think that was a good change, and then the majority of the changes they made going forward were huge misses and big question marks. I don't really get it. The best example comes from the finale, I think, where Ellie when pursuing Abby. She washes up on the shore and gets taken by the scars, and she's about to be gutted like a fish. And then she's not, because it gets broken up, the village is under attack, they let her go, and then she gets out of there and then goes back to get Ellie. That wasn't in the game, and it added nothing. It felt so out of the blue, just completely random. Why even have that there? That doesn't really compute in my noodle up here. Maybe it'll be something they explore in season 3, perhaps, but as of right now, that just felt entirely out of left field and served no real purpose. Unless what they tried to get across to viewers is just how deep the indoctrination goes with the cult, because it was a little kid who kind of, passed judgment saying that she needs to be killed. The kid, gave the sign to, split her open, so maybe that's what it wanted to get across. But I don't think you needed this whole sequence here that leads to nothing. That was already kind of established earlier in the season anyway. But whatever. Point is, there was a lot of changes here that I don't think added anything. And in fact, some of them I think just take away. But I'm not speaking in absolutes. I'm not a Sith. There are a couple changes I like. As mentioned, the Jackson sequence. I thought that was a great battle, and still the best part of season 2, I would say, was everything that happened at Jackson with that huge fight with the infected horde. But there's another change that they introduced in the finale that I thought was really smart. It's while Ellie and Jesse take refuge for a moment, hold up, and Ellie grabs a book. And that book is actually one that's near and dear to my heart. It's the monster at the end of this book, the Sesame Street book, Grover. That book is all about Grover trying to stop you from getting to the end of the book because of the monster that lies at the very end. It's horrifying, so he's, frantically trying to get you to stop. No, don't go to the end of the book. But then when you get to the end of the book, turns out the monster is Grover the whole time. I actually think that's, at least the way I read it, I think that is a very clever thing to slide in here, knowing the game. Obviously, what it's talking about is how on this path for revenge, Ellie is the monster at the end of the book and what she became. And I think that works pretty well for the game, not the show. Because the show Ellie is just not the same character from the game. Not even close, really. So I don't think it hits as hard in the show, but I think that it was a very clever nod to the game counterpart. And I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was pretty cool. There was also, I also like what they did with Isaac. I thought Isaac was pretty solid. For the brief glimpses you get of him in this show, I actually thought Isaac was very cool. So there are a couple of things that I liked. But overall, I think Season 2 is just a miss. And the biggest reason for that is because of how Ellie was written here. They, at no point, have Ellie even remotely come close to the rage that's demonstrated in the character in the game. And for the vast majority of this season, Ellie's just jubilant, full of joy, constantly happy and joking, even when the situations make no sense for that to be the emotion that Ellie has in those moments. It doesn't work. It's just she never feels angry or full of rage or anything like that, like on a destructive warpath. It never comes across, and it doesn't help that the character feels really inconsistent. It felt like they were afraid to commit to just the angry, revenge-obsessed Ellie from the game. Like, in this finale alone, there is a scene that I'm pretty sure, almost 100% sure wasn't in the game. Granted, it's been a while since I've played it, where Ellie and Jesse take cover inside a garage because wolves were shooting at a Scar who was running away from them. They catch up. They then take the Scar's clothes off, drag him away, presumably to execute him. Ellie tries to go save him, and Jesse stops her. And she gets very upset about that because she wanted to save him, and that really conflicts with the selfish Ellie that they're trying to get across, and also the Ellie from the game who absolutely would not care about that and is just so consumed with revenge, she wouldn't do that or get mad about not being able to save this Scar she didn't know. And then 2 scenes later in this finale, it's when Jesse and Ellie are looking over the city. Ellie sees the Ferris wheel, connects the dots that Abby's going to be at the aquarium under the Ferris wheel, and Jesse is trying to convince her to save Tommy because they hear the gunshots. Jesse reminds her Tommy is fighting wolves. He's pinning them down, but they called for backup. Ellie then says then he'll pin down the backup, and she ultimately chooses to go after Abby and abandons Tommy and Jesse for her quest for revenge. That happened in the game, and that was once again to solidify just how consumed she was on this quest for vengeance. But in the show, it kind of flip-flops on Ellie. Sometimes she wants to be like the good guy, helping everybody, even strangers she doesn't know, being the savior over there. And then 2 scenes later, nope, she's going to be that rage-filled revenge machine. Like, it just felt like they couldn't really commit to that Ellie from the game, and instead, they just had her be pretty inconsistent across the whole season. Also, when she's going through the aquarium with the flashlight on, that shit was kind of painful. She is behind enemy lines. She's already just gone through that island sequence. Now she's in the aquarium, yet she still has her flashlight fully blasting here, knowing full well everyone there will just try and kill her if they're alerted to her presence. And yet she's like basically throwing up a flare to where she is at all times. She's basically got the UAV out on herself by just having the flashlight going. But luckily, of course, they were in the back so they didn't see it. That was just a little silly, something I want to mention. Another thing I want to mention, though, is after Tommy and Jesse come and they get Ellie and they go back to the safe spot, there's a conversation that gets had, and I don't remember if it plays out this way in the game, but in the show, it felt really bad. It's when Ellie asked, why'd you come back? Jesse said, maybe Tommy forced me to. Ellie said something to the effect of, is that true? And Jesse said, nope. And then he says, I just thought, if I was ever in trouble, life on the line, I knew I could count on you to light a fire, burn it all down, do everything possible, move mountains, basically, to come save me. He basically says that if he was in trouble, he knows Ellie would do everything to save him. And I just thought to myself how fucking stupid that sounds after what we just watched, where Ellie, literally less than 20 minutes ago, just openly forsakes Jesse and Tommy. Tommy, who is in immediate danger, fighting against wolves in like this huge firefight. Ellie abandons both of them in order to go find Abby. So I don't know why Jesse thinks that she would do anything to save him, because there's a good chance if Ellie smelt a fart that she believed would somehow lead her closer to Abby, she would follow that like a cartoon character smelling a nice pie and forget all about Jesse entirely. So just that line, that conversation doesn't really hit when we've already watched Ellie go completely against that and abandon the people she cares about for revenge, which I do think is much more in line with the video game character for what it's worth. But since the show is very inconsistent about being that angry, rage, revenge-focused character that we know from the game, it doesn't fit. Like, it no longer works, and it feels very out of place. Anyway, though, I'll stop yapping about this show. There were moments I thought were pretty decent, but they were few and far between, unfortunately. I think it was a huge step down. I also think the season had some big pacing issues that I haven't even begun to touch on. It really wasn't great. Oh, I did want to mention, though, I actually thought Abby was pretty solid in the show. Like, I don't have any major complaints there. And even though we didn't get to see a lot of Abby's side of things whenever it would pop up actually was solid. Like, I don't know if that's maybe just because everything on the Ellie side was handled so poorly that Abby's side, by contrast, looks a lot better. I don't really know, but I really did think Abby was pretty solid in the season. And I know Season 3 is obviously going to be focusing on Abby's side entirely, so maybe that ends up being a bit better than this season, because Season 2 of Last of Us show, not amazing. That's really about it. See ya.